Chapter 787, The Anger of Lotus Sutra Temple. Bi Han fought 1 against 2 and had killed top 2 battle generals, Hai Jin Yun and Shang Yusheng, by trading for the lives of half of Xin Battalion. The world shook. Even Xue Dong, that was ranked first among Xiuzha battle generals, had never had such glorious results. Bi Han's last cold and domineering gesture caused numerous hot-blooded youths to copy him. Mo Cloud C's powerful strength once again attracted the attention of the world. Bi Han could only be considered second in Mo Cloud C. People's opinions of him were far lower than Gong Sun Cha. This could be seen from the rankings. Yet after this battle, everyone saw Bi Han in a completely new light. His moves had become more varied and well-rounded. He had 2 fighting styles. This kind of Bi Han posed a much greater threat. Bi Han had commanded the entire campaign. From the starting setup to the final battle with its layers, Bi Han displayed his stunning talent. In people's previous opinions, Bi Han was strong, but he was lacking greatly compared to Gong Sun Cha, especially in his planning. Right now, no one would think this. What people feared even more was Bi Han's coldness, a cold-blooded ruthlessness. For victory, he could do anything. In the minds of many people, Bi Han had become a cold-blooded battle general. His challenging throat slash at the end made people feel a wave of murderousness. Mo Cloud C's enemies felt a blade at their backs. However, unexpectedly, Bi Han's ranking did not rise greatly. This was because of Xin Battalion's large number of casualties. This number of fatalities was a great injury to any battalion, much less a battalion like Xin Battalion that could not be replenished. Through this battle, Bi Han proved his great individual strength. The Shin device raiment also was revealed. The infamy of arsonist spread through the world. Just by the results of this battle was enough for him to go forward a few places in the rankings. Yet everyone also knew that Bi Han's strength had weakened rather than increased. Bi Han was skilled in 2 fighting styles, and Xin Battalion was the only one that could channel his full power. But Xin Battalion could not be replenished. If there was fighting, there would be fatalities. With result of not having any replenishment meant that Xin Battalion fighters would grow fewer in number, and the battalion was weaker. Bi Han would become weaker as a result. Right now was Bi Han's weakest moment. But even so, Mo Cloud C's great power alarmed people. The second strongest battle general of Mo Cloud C, Bi Han, was already so terrifying. Then the one called the top battle general, Gong Sun Cha. How strong was he? This shocking campaign had too many things worthy of discussion, and many people forgot about identifying why Mo Cloud C had started this campaign. But inside Mo Cloud C, the higher ranks understood with 100 energy Jia in hand, they now had wings. News of Bi Han's victory quickly reached Swa Mo. Little Mo Gu was excited and wanted to howl into the sky. 100 energy Jia. Shin crystals. They were rich. Thinking about returning and laying in the mountains of Shin crystals, that would definitely be the best experience in life. Who's? You are still playing with Jingshi, Ji has started playing Shin crystals. Unusually content, Zhuo Mo's spirit rose. He was filled with anticipation towards the trip to the ancient ruins about to begin. At this time, the sect leader of Lotus Sutra Temple hurriedly rushed in. When Zhuo Mo noticed the grief on the face of the Lotus Sutra Temple sect leader, and on the faces of the disciples around her, he knew that something happened. He hurriedly asked, "What happened?" "Just now, Yuan Tong Shixiang of Surengama Heart sect perished." The eyes of Lotus Sutra Temple's sect leader was slightly swollen. She had clearly cried just now. The White Lotus Reverend explained, Yuan Tong Shishu and Master had a good relationship. However, just now, someone attempted an assassination and he unfortunately was killed. He glanced at Zhuo Mo and said, "The token of Surengama Heart sect was with Yuan Tong Shishu." Zhuo Mo's heart sank. Did they come for the token? The token is gone. The White Lotus Reverend nodded with murderousness on his face. Only a small few knew that the token of Surengama Heart sect was with Shishu. Even Master did not know. There definitely are spies in Surengama Heart sect. Did you find who did it? Zhuo Mo asked. The situation was more complex than he had imagined. The ruins had not opened yet the killing had started. It's Kunlun. The eyes of the Lotus Sutra Temple sect leader flashed. She said hatefully, "While they have disguised it well, but they did not know that Shi Xiang has an ability called empty heart thought. Usually, he would leave behind a thread of his consciousness in the Dhyana Tower when he cultivates. If not for this thread of consciousness, we would not have discovered it." Kunlun. Zhuo expression became serious. He hadn't thought that Kunlun wanted the Shen device nucleus so desperately. Zhuo immediately recognized the severity of the situation. It probably wasn't just one Kunlun Xiozha that would enter the ancient ruins, and these people were well concealed. If they were the least bit careless, they would easily fall for the trap. At this moment, the lotus flower at the forehead of the sect leader lit up minutely. Her expression changed. She closed her eyes and focused while breathing calmly. When she opened her eyes again, her face was murderousness. Yuan Hao was attacked on his return trip. Good, very good. The sect leader of Lotus Sutra Temple was clearly angered greatly. If she could maintain her calm at Yuan Tong's death, then Yang Yuan Hao being ambushed enraged her. Yang Yuan Hao wasn't just related to the future of the 9 great Dhyana sects, he was also her nephew. The location where he had been ambushed was in her territory. The other was arrogant and unscrupulous to the limit. They really think that Lotus Sutra Temple is easy to bully. She was a sect leader, however, and quickly calmed down. However, the darkness in her eyes grew. She bowed and warned Zhuo and the others, "I have come to remind everyone to pay attention to your safety and be careful." Finishing, she turned and left with her disciples. This was Lotus Sutra Temple's territory. They had lived here for thousands of years, and the depth of their foundation far surpassed people's imagination. When all of Lotus Sutra Temple moved, several groups of suspicious people quickly came to the surface. Truly angered, Lotus Sutra Temple clearly did not intend to maintain the illusion of peace. Also, the sect leader of Lotus Sutra Temple knew that her one sect did not have the power to fight against these disciples of Tianhuan and Kunlun. The death of Yuan Tong stirred the 9 great Dhyana sects into facing a common enemy. Under the leadership of Lotus Sutra Temple's sect leader, Thunder Sound Temple, Karma Temple, Surangama Temple, Laughing Maitreya Temple and the others sent their outstanding disciples to reinforce Lotus Sutra Temple. Troops made from 300 elite disciples carried out ambushes during the night. These Kunlun and Tianhuan disciples hidden in the shadows hadn't expected that the others would dare to come to their door. They hurried to respond. The disciples of Kunlun and Tianhuan were stronger, but the disciples of the 9 great Dhyana sects had the advantage of numbers. The fighting was intense. Both sides suffered great losses. Of the 4 reverends of Lotus Sutra Temple, 1 was killed and 2 wounded. The other sects also received heavy losses. More than half of the 300 disciples were dead or wounded. Kunlun and Tianhuan also had heavy losses. Many of the hidden disciples were plucked out. The 9 great Dhyana sects had the advantage. Even though the Kunlun and Tianhuan disciples were stronger, there was no advantage when they were outnumbered in melee combat. Other than several powerful disciples that broke through, the other disciples were all killed. In the end, they found more than 60 corpses of people from Kunlun and Tianhuan. The restless area around the ruins immediately became much quieter. Chao Exine had an expression of pain. Stupid! One Shen device nucleus ruined this great situation. Now, our previous plan cannot be used. The 9 great Dhyana sect is going to be more united after this fight. Lin Qian had a grimace. This matter is my mistake. Previously, the value of 1 Shen device raiment could not compare to a greatly beneficial strategy against the 9 great Dhyana sect. But since Bi Han's arsonist appeared, a completely new concept of battle general Shen device raiment, every sect increased their value of the nucleus. Suddenly, every faction's desire towards Shen device raiments increased drastically. Lin Qian regretted greatly that the first Shen device raiment of Kunlun had been given to him. With his strength and status, there was nothing to criticize that he possess a Shen device raiment. However, he would not fight on the front lines, and the Shen device raiment was not of much strategic value. For Kunlun and the others, Shen device raiments were strategic treasures. Since they were of strategic value, they actually would not be easily used. For example, Lin Qian. He had the Shin device raiment. While he would rarely meet someone that was a match for him, he was not invulnerable. If he was swarmed by many, he would also die. Kunlun could not tolerate this kind of loss. Yet, Mo Cloud C's Battle General Shin device raiment was designed around a completely different concept. Battle generals of Bihan's level were heavily protected and had many experts around him. After being outfitted with the Shin device raiment, he was even stronger, and he was able to increase the strength of the entire battalion. Both were Shin device raiments, yet it was clear which had greater use. Kunlun and Tianhuan were inspired and had an even greater desire for Shin device raiments. However, even with their wealth, it was not an easy matter to forge a new Shin device raiment. The attraction of a complete Shin device nucleus for Kunlun could be imagined. Also, Kunlun did not think anything of the 9 Great Diana sects. That was not just the sects within the lower ranks. Actually, Lin Qian knew that he thought the same inside. In his eyes, the biggest enemy was Tianhuan, the most dangerous enemy was Mo Cloud C. Other than Yang Yuan Hao, the 9 Great Diana sects were not worth a mention. This was the same with the other Kunlun disciples. They might be wary of Xian Kong Temple, but Lotus Sutra Temple, what was that? Lin Qian was a responsible person. He knew that he held great blame this time, and immediately admitted his mistake. Chao Xian sighed inside. Lin Qian had already given him enough face by admitting to his mistake. He thought and said, "This may not be a bad thing." "How so?" Lin Qian was an open-minded and humble person. Lotus Sutra Temple led the way, then we will make an example of Lotus Sutra Temple. Chao Xin's eyes flashed. There are many conflicts between the 9 Great Diana sects, and they all want different things. We can use this matter to single out Lotus Sutra Temple and no other sections. Lin Qian's eyes lit up. Great plan. This matter was a great excuse. If they put out a strong attitude of only making trouble for Lotus Sutra Temple, what would the other sects do? This was something to think over. Within the 9 Great Diana sects, there were numerous conflicts between themselves. No one was willing to provoke an enemy like Kunlun, adding on the spies fanning the flames from the shadows. Chapter 788, Divide. Congratulations for finishing the exam. Song Ling Shui looked at Yuqin Lai, who stood in front of her with an expressionless face. She was filled with terror. This youth that was just a bit older than she was the manifestation of a demon. Beside her was another female about 30 years old. Her appearance was ordinary and her attire simple. If she was not standing beside Song Ling Shui would think that she was a servant girl. Yuqin Lai looked at the two and said to himself expressionlessly, "You two had the best results. Starting from today, you will each become responsible for them." Song Ling Shui perceptively caught the crux of Yuqin Lai's words. Yuqin Lai nodded. "Yes, 20 people in total. They will be divided to 2 teams, 10 on each team. You will each be responsible for a team. Song Ling Shui, Hong Xiao, you will be competitors. Your status will be determined by your results." Song Ling Shui and Hong Xiao turned their faces at the same moment and their gazes met. With a short glance, Song Ling Shui could see experience flashing in Hong Xiao's eyes. Her heart trembled. However, she was filled with confidence in herself and did not fear competition. You will be sent to a completely new place. There you will start your work. Your family, clansmen, they will meet up with you in 3 months. Good luck. The 9 Great Diana sects was in chaos. Kunlun's force pointed directly at Lotus Sutra Temple and they informed all the sects that their target was only Lotus Sutra Temple. They requested that Lotus Sutra Temple produce the criminals that killed the Kunlun disciples and for the other sects to remain neutral. Thunder Sound Temple, Karma Temple, Laughing Methriya Temple, and Surangama Temple immediately expressed their support for Lotus Sutra Temple. They started to move their battalions. Yang Yuan Hai announced that he had been the subject of an ambush and accused Kunlun of planning it. The situation immediately became a powder keg. Great Buddha Temple, Karma Temple, Skanda Temple and Heart Leaf Diana sect did not make a sound. Inside the 9 Great Diana sects, all kinds of rumors quickly spread. Many people thought that Lotus Sutra Temple had caused this incident and should resolve it themselves rather than drag everyone down. The divides in the 9 Great Dhyana sect finally appeared in public. Kunlun's immediately response seemed to say that Lotus Sutra Temple's actions this time truly angered them. Shuedong Battalion moved out and pointed straight at Thunder Sound Temple. The 9 Great Dhyana sects became nervous. Yang Yuanhao's battalion completely moved and guarded against Shuedong Battalion's advance. In the time of a day, the situation changed so quickly people could not keep up. The face-off between the 2 top battle generals immediately attracted the eyes of the world. Shuedong was the best battle general in the world. He was well-rounded, had strategic vision, and had never lost. Shuedong, who was born in Kunlun, had always been the most accomplished battle general among the Kunlun disciples from childhood. Yang Yuanhao was a new talent, but his strength was also stunning. He was ranked 5th, just below Gongsun Cha. In the great banquet to divide Xian Kong Temple, Yang Yuanhao showed his outstanding talent. If not for him, the present 9 Great Dhyana sect probably could not stop the advance of Kunlun and Tianhuan. Just now, Bi Han had killed 2 top battle generals by himself and stunned the world. The importance of the conflict in front of them rivaled Bi Han's battle. Kunlun seemed determined to destroy Lotus Sutra Temple. Then Mu Xian Battalion started to advance towards Lotus Sutra Temple. Mu Xian was the only female battle general in the top 10 of the Xiuzha battle generals. She was ranked 8th. She was much older than Shuedong and experienced. Even in Kunlun, not many dared to provoke her. Compared to Shuedong's light, Mu Xian was much more low-key and people rarely knew of her accomplishments. No one knew why her ranking was so high. However, no one doubted her abilities, but she was one of the rare elders that did not decrease in status after Lin Qian ascended and had become even more important. Lin Qian's eyes were usually very accurate. It was a shock to people that the usually low-key Mu Xian moved. Yang Yuanhao could not divide himself. Shuedong was enough to keep him engaged and he did not dare to move. He could only watch as Mu Xian moved closer to Lotus Sutra Temple. 2 top battle generals attacked at the same time. In this time, Lotus Sutra Temple was in great danger. Yet another battalion suddenly appeared at Lotus Sutra Temple and shocked the world. Gongsun Vermilion Bird Camp. The top battle general of Mo Cloud Sea with the strongest battalion of Mo Cloud Sea appeared in Lotus Sutra Temple's territory without any warning. When the news came out, everyone that paid attention to this battle finally understood. No wonder Lotus Sutra Temple dared to challenge Kunlun. So Mo Cloud Sea was supporting them. However, no one dared to dismiss the name of Gongsun Lil Mississippi. Almost the moment Gongsun Lil Miss Vermilion Bird Camp arrived at Lotus Sutra Temple, Mu Xian's battalion stopped advancing. The situation seemed to enter a standoff again, Yang Yuanhao against Shuedong, Gongsun Cha against Mu Xian. 4 top battle generals ranked in the top 10 facing off gave off a suffocating pressure. The entire world became nervous. If the conflict between Kunlun and Lotus Sutra Temple was a simple conflict before, then Mo Cloud Sea with the 5 sects of the 9 Great Dhyana sect had even strength to fight Kunlun. If the 2 sides really fought, the scale of the conflict would be so great it would most likely affect the entire world. Tianhuan seemed unwilling to be silent. The battalions at the borders shifted as though they wanted to fan the flames. However, they never expected that Zhong De's battalion would suddenly appear at the border of Shixian and Tianhuan. All of Tianhuan became nervous. What did Zhong De want to do? In terms of power, Shixian could not compare to Tianhuan now. However, Zhong De was not a reasonable person. He was powerful among the top 1 or 2 of the top 10 battle generals. The situation came to a standstill again. Zhuo Mo had been paying close attention to the situation. He had ordered Gongsun Cha to reinforce Lotus Sutra Temple. Lotus Sutra Temple was his ally. If it was killed by Kunlun, it would be a detriment to him. Zhuo Mo didn't believe that Kunlun would truly fight after Gongsun Cha appeared. If a war of such scale started, it would not end so easily. Even if Kunlun could defeat them, they would suffer heavy losses that would benefit Tianhuan. Kunlun just wanted to cause a rift between the 9 Great Dhyana sects and had achieved their goal. Heartleaf Diana sect and the other 3 sects' silence had planted the seeds of the divide. Fighting now was not of any benefit to Kunlun. It was not good for Zhuemo to interfere too deeply into the matters of the 9 great Diana sects. However, after this matter, the relationship between Lotus Sutra Temple and Mo Cloud Sea would grow much closer. The sect leader of Lotus Sutra Temple was a vicious person. Since they had burned their ties to Kunlun, without another word, she sent a battalion into the region of the ruins and repeatedly made sweeps. Any person that was the least bit suspicious would be asked to leave. While Lotus Sutra Temple's battalion was lacking in comparison to a top battalion such as Vermilion Bird Camp, it was much stronger than an average sex battalion. The enormous battalion swept through the region of the ruins like comb. If any person resisted, they would be killed. After this, the number of people around the ruins decreased immediately. Everyone saw Lotus Sutra Temple's determination. Did Lotus Sutra Temple want to take the ruins for themselves? This kind of rumor spread through the 9 great Diana sects, but Lotus Sutra Temple still did as they wished. Thunder Sound Temple and other allies strangely did not have any opinions. Heartleaf Diana sect and the others were talkative, but Lotus Sutra Temple was determined and didn't even listen. After this matter, the sect leader of Lotus Sutra Temple finally saw that the 9 great Diana sects would not be as successful. Yang Yuanhao was strong in battle, but he did not have the ability to sort out the 9 great Diana sect. Without a strong person coming up, the 9 great Diana sects that was made from many factions would fall to infighting. A divided 9 great Diana sect would die quickly. Since that was the case, why didn't they prepare? Lotus Sutra Temple's only choice was Mo Cloud Sea. This time, they had completely burned ties to Kunlun and Tianhuan. Xixian was in its old age, and only Mo Cloud Sea was filled with life and signs that it was growing stronger. She had a good outlook for Mo Cloud Sea's prospects. Everyone had already agreed to using the Shen device nucleus in exchange for Shen equipment. What she was doing now was within the limits of the agreement. She was just acting a bit more vicious. Also, the safety of Lotus Sutra Temple was reliant on Gongsun Cha's Vermilion Bird Camp. There are no more factions in this area, Lotus Sutra Temple's sect leader introduced. We have eliminated some suspicious people. Please accept these tokens. This is? Zhuemo was slightly shocked. The tokens of Thunder Sound Temple, my sect, Laughing Mithriya Temple, and Splendid Buddha Temple are all here. For in total, we had originally planned to send experts to help you, but we are worried that spies will ruin the matter. So we are giving this to you. You can take in more subordinates. We have not managed to get back Surangamasek's token. It must already be in Kunlun's hands. The other 4 sects. She sighed softly, her expression dispirited. The 9 great Diana sects were of different minds and values. They had already divided into 2 factions. Yang Yuanhao's transaction with Mo Cloud Sea had been objected to by Heartleaf Diana sect, Karma sect, Skanda sect, and Great Buddha sect. The 2 sides had fought fiercely numerous times over this. Zhuemo understood when he heard this. He bowed seriously. Many thanks for your trust. The Shin equipment will be delivered as soon as possible. The sect leader quickly sorted out her emotions. She knew that the situation could not be fought against. The alliance of the 9 great Diana sects had fatal weaknesses from the start. She had just always anticipated a charismatic leader would appear. However, while Yang Yuanhao was a top battle general, he did not have the traits to be a leader. Yet she found those traits in Zhuemo. To be able to command a sect as a female, she naturally had her attributes. Seeing the situation clearly, she did not hesitate. She could not save the 9 great Diana sects, but she had to consider the lives of those in the Lotus Sutra Temple. Sir, please be careful and take along more people, she cautioned. I understand. Zhuemo nodded gravely. Chapter 789, Sin Battalion. The situation had changed. Zhuemo now had 5 tokens in his possession. In other words, including himself, 25 people could enter the ruin. It seemed that their numbers had increased, but their probability of success did not increase. Previously, no one knew their identity and there was a possibility they could sneak in and obtain the treasure. However, Heartleaf Diana sect and the others knew of the transaction between himself and Yang Yuanhao. Lotus Sutra Temple and the others could not stop Heartleaf Diana sect and the other 3 temples. Everyone knew this. However, they had not broken their ties in public. If Heartleaf Diana sect and the others really did split with the rest of the 9 great Diana sects at this time, then the present equilibrium would be immediately disrupted. Zhou Emo and his group had been revealed and became public targets. They were the strongest group going into the ruins, but they were also everyone's enemy. No matter who, if they wanted to get the Shin device nucleus, they had to kill Zhou Emo's group. They were now everyone's enemy and surrounded by wolves. Zhou Emo and the others only had one path: step over the corpses of their competitors. However, while it was more dangerous, there were also benefits. The sides were clearly defined. Other than the 25 people, everyone else was an enemy. They did not need to worry about exposing their identity and harming potential allies. Zhou Emo quickly concluded that the main issue would be that once they entered the ruins, everyone would become their enemy. If they wanted the Shin device nucleus, there was only one way: kill everyone else. The people accompanying Zhou Emo were all the elite of Mo Cloud C. Individually they were outstanding, but they were also trained and skilled in battle formations. The power of a battle formation was directly linked to the number of people in it. Usually, the smaller the number of people, the lower the threat of the battle formation posed. A battle formation composed of 20 people definitely surpassed a battle formation of 5 people. While the enemy had the advantage of numbers, they belonged to different factions. They were unlikely to cooperate, and even if they did, they would not trust each other, so battle formations of larger scale were not feasible. Zhou Emo did not need to worry about himself. Other than himself, Agui, Wei Xing, Tseng Lianer, Luo Li and the others, everyone else could advance as a part of a battle formation. Their strength might not match the carefully selected experts of other factions, but they had been trained by Lil Mississippi. Once they formed a battle formation, they were not so easily defeated. When the ancient ruins opened, if one had the token, they would be sucked into the ruins if they were close by. Zhou Emo and the other entered the ruins through the mountain valley that Lotus Sutra Temple had arranged before. This mountain valley was heavily guarded by Lotus Sutra Temple to leave behind only one safe passageway. Zhou Emo and the others felt their vision blur and the surrounding scenery changed. Everything in front of him was white and shrouded in mist. Under his feet were slate stones carved with ancient beasts. The mist here was strange. The mist seemed to contain all kinds of colors and a kind of indescribable power. Yet when he saw the surroundings clearly, Zhou Emo's expression changed slightly. They had been split up. He only had a Gui with him. Damn it. Zhou Emo immediately recognized the seriousness of the situation. They were known by everyone else, and once their forces were split up, they would be in danger. He had originally planned on using their numbers to fight their way through. The plan was unusable now. They had been split up. Undoubtedly, the people from Mo Cloud C were the first targets people would want to eliminate. He hurriedly used a spell unique to Mo Cloud C to try to communicate with the others. Yet the spell seemed to fizzle out. There was no response. His heart continued to sink. He turned to look at Agui. Without a second word, he took out 2 sets of normal Shin equipment to put them on himself and Agui, a disguise so they did not appear so eye-catching. While Zhou Emo had confidence in his strength, it would be dangerous if they were attacked from all sides. Let's go. Zhou Emo charged out first. The urgent matter now was to find everyone else. It was all right for he and the other Shin power experts. They should not be in too much danger. But those guards were not individually strong enough in here. Without the use of a battle formation, they were in great danger. While Zhou Emo desired the Shin device raiment, he did not want to trade for it with the lives of his comrades. These people had followed him the longest and were the group he was closest to. Zhou Emo and Agui quickly disappeared into the white mist. Resting Island, it was situated in a remote and unpopulated corner of Cloud Xijia. The island was just 300 li wide and less than 700 li long. It was a very average island among the Cloud Xijia Islands. Before this little island did not have a name. After Bi-Han built his residence here, he named this island Resting Island. Resting Island was surrounded by Jinji. No one would be able to force their way in. There was only one way to enter Resting Island: transportation formations. There was a transportation formation on Resting Island. The other end of the transportation formation was Bi-Han's bedroom. Only Bi-Han would come to Resting Island. There was only a memorial hall on the island. Bi-Han had built the 7-story memorial hall himself. There were memorial tablets placed in the hall. The drapes swayed with the cold wind and caused this place to look eerie. Bi-Han held a blank memorial tablet on his left hand and held a brush on his right. He carefully wrote the names in strokes. He silently wrote. Behind him stood less than half of Sin Battalion. The ranks with their empty spaces stood silently like they were dead. When the last name was written, Bi-Han carefully put the memorial tablets onto their places before lighting incense. He did not bow, but stood there silently as though he was inspecting his battalion like usual. He inspected the clean ranks of memorial tablets. His expression was cold as he stared for a long. Suddenly, he said to himself, facing the memorial tablets, "I don't know if your spirits will return. You're tired, sleep, I'm going ahead." He turned and walked to the transportation formation with the remains of Sin Battalion. He returned to his residence and then to Chun Yucheng's Cloud Island to find Chun Yucheng. Chun Yucheng might be muddle-headed sometimes, but that depended on the person he was speaking to. In front of a killing god like Bi-Han, he was cooperative. Also, Bi-Han never asked him for complex tasks. More so, Zhuo Shixiang had been the one to forge those blood beads. Chun Yucheng was also very curious what the results were. "Here, they are growing well." Chun Yucheng pointed to a ball of blood in the blood pool and said with a small frown, "They have started to have some of the MOSD traits, but very preliminary." Bi-Han stared at the ball of blood in the blood pool without a word. The blood pools here stretched out. Inside every blood pool, a ball of blood was growing. The blood beads retain their instincts to fight, so they are aggressive. If there are 2 blood balls in a blood pool, they will fight until one dies. I had to build this many blood pools. I have to tell you first that you have to pay the expenses. Chun Yucheng chattered on. All right. Short and terse. Bi-Han treated his words like gold. I don't know what the growth and maturation is like. I'm curious. Chun Yucheng looked around and seeing no one was around, he lowered his voice and said, I got some Shun crystals and put them in as well. Those things are very useful. However, Shun crystals are rare, and I only have so many pieces. You have to repay me double? All right. Bi-Han suddenly asked, Shun crystals are useful? Yes, very useful. They can absorb Shun crystals. Look at these ones. The ones that have consumed Shun crystals are clearly bigger in size. Later, at Golden Crow Camp, they will be easier to forge. Let's agree you have to pay me back double, otherwise I will really suffer a loss. Hey, don't leave. Before Chun Yucheng finished his explanation, Bi-Han turned and left. I didn't say I wanted them now. Why are you so murderous? Chun Yucheng looked at Bi-Han's back with puzzlement. A few hours later, Bi-Han once again appeared in front of Chun Yucheng. Whoosh, he poured out a pile of Shun crystals. Chun Yucheng's eyes went straight. My heavens! Zhuo Mo and Agui changed their appearances to be less eye-catching. However, the mist in front of them was very strange. Whenever Zhuo Mo decided to search the surroundings, his Shun power would encounter great resistance. This kind of situation was rare. The Shun power he cultivated was the Sun Shun power from the Sun tribe. It was so dominant that it had been one of the strongest Shun methodologies even in the ancient era. Even Sun Shun power was encountering resistance. This ruin was not simple. At this time, Silly Bird suddenly came out of Zhuomo's ring. Then Lil Pagoda, Lil Fire, Lil Black, and the Black Gold Seal Soldier also streamed out of the ring. The group immediately multiplied in number and seemed much bigger. Once Silly Bird came out, her eyes glared. Red flames shot out of her body, her feathers raising up as though there was something dangerous in the surrounding white mist. Lil Pagoda looked around curiously and suddenly opened its mouth to suck in the mist. The white mist was quickly sucked into Lil Pagoda's mouth like a whale inhaling. The white and black body of Lil Pagoda became even more defined as it contrasted against the mist. It even became shinier. Was this mist something good? Zuoremo knew how picky Lil Pagoda was. If it was not something good, this guy would not open his mouth. Also, Lil Pagoda seemed to be enjoying this. This mist probably was not ordinary. Did this mist have something? Without a word, Zuoremo took out a jade bottle and started to move his hands in a spell. The mouth of the bottle pointed at the mist, and the mist seemed to be pulled by a strong force. It shook, but it did not fly over. Strange. Zuoremo felt even stranger. The jade bottle in his hand was a magnetic bottle forced specially to take in materials of this kind. Yet it could not suck this in? Zuoremo channeled Inshin power. The white mist finally could not resist the strong magnetism of the magnetic bottle and immediately flowed into the bottle. In a flash, a space appeared around them. The white mist in the surroundings seemed to be constrained by a power and did not move in this direction. It was like a piece of the cake had been cut and Zuoremo and the others were standing in the empty space. Zuoremo's attention quickly moved away from the mist. A strange thing appeared in the empty space in front of them. Chapter 790, Totem Colosseum. A round disc covered in a spiraling pattern appeared in front of the group. There was a hole at the center of the disc and the white mist came from there. The disc was very small and the white mist flowed slowly. The mist did not dissipate but gathered in the air. Did all the mist here flow out of this disc? I know where this is. Pu Yao suddenly spoke gravely. What place is this? Zuoremo could hear that something was wrong in Pu Yao's tone. He felt strange. A daring person like Pu Yao actually had a place he was afraid of. Totem Colosseum? Pu Yao said coldly. Hearing the name, Wei first still and then his expression changed. He gasps, impossible? Totem Colosseum? Such a strange name, what is this place? Zuoremo was even more curious. Wei's response proved that this name was not ordinary. The Totem Colosseum is the place where the totem warriors of the ancient tribes would compete. Pu Yao introduced in a deep voice. In the ancient era, they would host a tournament once in a while. The totem warriors of each tribe would gather and fight to become the chief. Oh, it sounds like the sword test conference, Zuoremo said thoughtfully. The chief tournament is much more crueler than the sword test conference. Wei couldn't help but say, it is a fight to death. Few people come out alive. The strongest totem warrior would be called the chief. Its tribe would have great power, and the other tribes had to give it tribute. This tribute would continue until the new chief appeared. Usually, a conference would be hosted every decade. Wei said gravely, there is no evidence that proves this is the Totem Colosseum. I might have not gone to the Totem Colosseum, but the ruins here do not show any indication of it. Pu Yao said coldly, the 5 front halls of the Totem Colosseum are wind, rain, thunder, mist, and snow. If I am not wrong, this is the mist hall. That round disc should be the mist eye tablet. Wei was silent. He hadn't been the totem warrior in his time. In the tribe, he had been weak and matters like the Totem Colosseum would not involve him. However, he had heard of the 5 halls, wind, rain, thunder, mist, and snow of the Totem Colosseum. Zuoremo already half believed it. When Pu Yao said the name of the mist eye tablet, Zuoremo believed it. That described the round disc exactly. No wonder his shun power was being suppressed everywhere. If this was the Totem Colosseum, then it would make sense. This was a place for totem warriors to fight. Pu Yao, you know a lot. Zuoremo was surprised by this. If Wei had been the one to say this, Zuoremo would feel it was normal since Wei had lived in that era. He hadn't expected the one to know of this place would be Pu Yao. Pu Yao did not show any pride but had a normal expression. My teacher once studied the Totem Colosseum for a very long time. Zuoremo finally understood. However, he was even more curious. Pu Yao's teacher seemed very strong. Then what do we do now? Zuoremo asked with anticipation. Then he pointed enthusiastically at the mist eye tablet. This is a good thing, it definitely is a treasure. Can we take it? Pu Yao said seriously, the wind, rain, thunder, mist, and snow halls of the Totem Colosseum are the first tests. The number of people eliminated here is the highest. Only those that can survive will enter the next round. The Mist Eye tablet is a treasure, but it guards the Mist Hall. If you are able to take it, the Mist Hall will be defeated. However, I do not suggest for you to do this. When he heard the Mist Eye tablet was a treasure, Zuo immediately rubbed his hands and was yearning to go when Pu Yao poured down cold water on him. He asked in bewilderment, "Why not? The totem warriors of the ancient era were much stronger than you are now. Why did no one else think of taking the Mist Eye tablet that has stayed here for so long?" Pu Yao asked in response. Zuo froze. True, so many years and this thing was still here. So many totem warriors, not one had managed to take it. This thing definitely was not easy to deal with. Little Mo Gu was a money grubber, but he knew his limits. He might be a major player in the world now, but he was not comparable to those inhuman freaks in the ancient era that could pick stars from the sky and hold moons in their palms. But they could only stare at the treasure they encountered and then leave. If they couldn't take it, why tell Ji? Zuomo's heart dripped blood, but he maintained his calm. "How do we get out?" Pu Yao shook his head. "I don't know." "Don't know?" Zuo stilled. "Don't know." Pu Yao continued to shake his head. Zuo wanted to cry. He knew that this was the Mist Hall, knew that the Mist Eye tablet was a treasure, but he didn't know how to leave. He didn't know the most important thing. Looking at Zuomo's disdainful gaze, Pu Yao said helplessly, "Many things from the ancient era were lost in history. It is not easy to even dig up this much information." Wei, who had been thinking hard all this time, suddenly spoke. "I remember a book from the tribe said." Zuo became alert. "What did they say?" "It's too long ago, I don't quite remember it, let me think." Wei was slightly embarrassed. He only had a faint impression. It seemed that there had been one from the tribe that had been wounded after the first round that left the tournament, which was why he had left what he learned behind. Hearing this, Zuo didn't know what to do. At this time, suddenly, Silly Bird, who had been glaring, suddenly pecked at the hole in the Mist Eye tablet. This crack. A burst of sparks erupted at Silly Bird's bead. Vroom. The Mist Eye tablet shook and then a suddenly suction came from the eye. The surrounding mist that looked like cotton candy started to move towards Zuo and the others. The seemingly tangible white mist seemed to be balls of cotton that pressed at them from all areas. Rumbles came from deep within the mist. Zuo was stunned by the change. He had never thought that Silly Bird would attack. What was with the bird? Did it have a grudge against the thing? However, there was no time for him to think. In a blink, the mist was about 3 zhang away from them. Unlike the calm mist just now, the mist now was thick and restless. While Zuo didn't know what mysteries the white mist held, Zuo knew he could not let it continue. Since they could suck the mist in, then I can too. Zuo snickered. He flipped his hand, and a magnetic bottle appeared in his hand. He cast a spell to suck in mist. Yet the suction of the bottle was clearly not as strong as the Mist Eye tablet. Zuo saw this, and he flipped his hand again and again and again. A moment later, 3 rows of magnetic bottles appeared in front of him, 9 to a row. Magnetic bottle formation. The power of the 27 magnetic bottles immediately showed their effect. 27 flows of white mist entered the magnetic bottles. In a blink, the surroundings were cleared again. The 27 bottles were completely filled. Zuo sighed in relief and was also shocked. The magnetic bottles he had were not ordinary. If a bottle like this was used to hold water, it could easily suck a river dry, and that was a river 3 li wide and 10 li long. He hadn't thought that they would be filled after taken in the white mist for such a short time. The white mist condensed into water in the bottle. There was only a handful in each bottle. The water flashed with multicolored light and he could not see what was special about it. Yet before Zuo could study what this white mist really was, the surrounding white mist started to move towards them again. When the white mist was 2 zhang away from them, the white mist twisted and roiled. At the same time, Zuo had a suddenly feeling of danger. There seemed to be something dangerous about to come out of the white mist. At this time, a wave of hissing sounded within the white mist. It was a group of white bats. The swarm of white bats numbered in the hundreds. They came quickly, their wings like blades as they broke through the mist. Careful! A tiny black shadow next to him suddenly flew out, and in the air, the black shadow exploded into tiny rays of light. Every ray of light was a minuscule sword energy. The sword energies looked like fireworks as they exploded. The white bats hit the bright sword energies head-on. Pop pop pop. The bats struck by the sword energies immediately turned into puffs of white mist. A small shadow dressed in black robes stood with a crescent blade. He floated in front of Zuemo with a cold expression. It was the aggressive 10th grade. 10th grade had a proud expression as though he had not used his full power in the attack just now. Not bad, Lil 10, good job. This strike has some of eldest Xixiang's style. Of course, Zuemo would not be frugal in praise. While 10th grade used a crescent blade, he cultivated a sword scripture. 10th grade's expression did not change, but he clearly felt good at Zuemo's praise. Lil Pagoda flew happily to rub 10th grade, and waved his fleshy eaves as though he was saying, "You worked hard, you worked hard." He seemed to be fawning. Lil Fire also moved over and rolled its round body around 10th grade. 10th grade's proud expression immediately turned into one of helplessness. He clearly did not know what to do with these two. Careful! Zuemo was alarmed. Soft hissing suddenly sounded in the mist. If Zuemo was not focused, he would not have detected it. He reacted quickly, his fingers flickering. The green strand on his wrist shot into the mist like a viper. Ichin? Zuemo was startled as the green stand on his wrist suddenly tensed. Zuemo reacted quickly. With a flip of his hand, a thread of sun shen fire appeared on his right hand. The shen fire grew along the green strand to spread at a quick rate towards the other end. A stream of fire flashed by. Boom! A deep roar came from within the white mist. The white mist was very strange. The explosion had been strong, but the mist was not affected by the explosion at all. An angry roar suddenly sounded from within the white mist. The sun shen power had wounded it. Zuemo snorted. His hand pulled and shook the green strand. Ripples of energy were released from the green stand and rained into the white mist. Pew pew pew! A string of deep impacts rattled out. How could Zuemo's attacks end so easily? He immediately braced himself and pulled abruptly on the green strand. A mist ball the height of a person was forcibly pulled out of the mist by Zuemo. The mist ball was thicker than the normal white mist. Something seemed to be moving inside it in an eerie manner. At this time, something suddenly occurred. Chapter 791. The power of gluttons. The mist ball suddenly exploded. Howling waves enveloped everyone, countless tiny white figures leaping at the group. Zuemo's scalp pricked, the green strand in his hand vibrating relentlessly. When the white shadows were struck by the green strand, they immediately exploded. Bam bam bam. With every explosion, a strange power would pass to Zuemo's wrist from the green strand. The frequent and eerie power battered at Zuemo like waves. Zuemo's heart shook. His physical body was so strong, yet he felt as though he couldn't keep a grip on the green strand. These white shadows were the size of a thumb and shaped like tadpoles with unusually large heads. When they opened their mouths, they revealed two dense rows of scary teeth. There were tens of thousands of them that furiously charged at the group. 10th grade's expression turned cold. The crescent blade around him suddenly attacked. The flash from before was absent, but an indescribable bloodthirst replaced it. Hundreds sacrificed soul-killing sword. The sword scripture, known to be the most vicious in the world, lived up to the name. With this attack, a vicious and bloodthirsty energy formed as the sword moved. The little crescent blade suddenly lit up with a dark red color. The crescent moon attacked. After turning dark red, the crescent seemed to be a bloody shadow that moved relentlessly. These gray shadows changed constantly as though they were moving about, forming and dissipating. Each shadow was filled with great killing energy. As the shadows formed and dissipated, the vicious energy of the dark red crescent blade reached a peak. Woo-woo! Like the cries of hundreds of ghosts, like the howls of tens of thousands of beasts. In front of 10th grade, the white shadows seemed to be frightened by such vicious energy. They screamed even more frequently, so sharp and high-pitched it almost ruptured eardrums as they furiously fled in all directions. The dark red crescent blade easily passed through the layers of white shadow as though they were intangible. The silky blood shadow would turn the white figures into water droplets upon contact, so quickly the white shadow didn't even have time to shout. In a flash, all the white shadows in front of 10th grade were swept clean, and only droplets of water fell down. Lil Pagoda stretched out its head from behind 10th grade. It sucked in all the raindrops into its body. Zhuo finally cleared out the white figures in front of him. His wrist gave off pangs of soreness and his heart was intimidated. The white mist in the surroundings were still the same as though what had happened just now was just a dream. Yet before Zhuo would sigh in relief, dozens of white arrows suddenly shot out of the white mist. Zhuo's wrist instinctively shook, and the green strand shot towards the white arrows. The green strand accurately hit the white arrows, yet the explosions that Zhuo predicted did not occur. The straight arrows suddenly opened their mouths and bit the green strand. Zhuo discovered that these were not white arrows but snakes. The mist snakes held onto the green strands and would not let go. At this time, the tails of the snake suddenly exploded. Starting from the tail, the snake exploded inch by inch. When the snake head exploded, an astounding power passed to Zhuo through the green strand. Zhuo's entire hand turned numb. Such strong power. Zhuo's expression turned grave. Following this power, the green strand shook lightly. Whoosh whoosh, dozens of crescent energies immediately shot towards the other white snakes. Half of the crescent energies hit a target. 7 white snakes nimbly dodged and then exploded in unison. Zhuo's expression changed dramatically. The explosion of one white snake had been so strong just now. The power of these 7 snakes would release when they exploded in unison, the power. He reacted quickly, his Shen power rippling and gathering in his right hand. Boom. A great power smashed out through the green strand in a furious wave. Zhuo's body lit up with bright golden light and he couldn't help but take a step back. Hiss hiss hiss. The hissing within the white mist echoed in his ears. Zhuo was astounded. The monsters inside the white mist was so strong and they seemed to be endless. The white mist still moved slowly towards them. Zhuo knew if the white mist completely shrouded him, their situation would worsen. What should he do? The monsters made from the white mist seemed to be unable to go too far from the white mist. At most, they would fly 2 zhang from the white mist. Zhuo thought of how he had used the magnetic bottles before to carve out this zone of safety. If he could expand the area, he hurriedly searched in his ring. He had used most of the bottles already, and the remaining few were futile. No, there had to be a way. Zhuo turned his face and saw the black gold seal soldier. He couldn't help but slap his forehead. How did he forget this guy? Zhuo pulled over the black gold seal soldier and said emotionally, "Blackie, look, our situation is not very good." Hearing this, the black gold seal soldier excitedly made a fist and patted his chest. "Big brother, should I go?" "No problem. Watch me beat them to pieces." "Beat them to pieces?" Zhuo shook his head and said mysteriously, "There is a way that you can easily defeat them." "What way?" the black gold seal soldier asked with a curious expression. Zhuo patted the black gold seal soldier's stomach. "Hey, eat them. Just like how you usually eat food. If you eat all of the white mist, wouldn't they be defeated?" The black gold seal soldier had a dumbstruck gaze. A moment later, he stammered out, "Big brother, the white mist isn't tasty." "Blackie, look, this is the best time for you to display our talents. As long as you show your talents, we will all look at you differently. Your Ague sister will bring you good things to eat. Didn't you want to eat some cloud steeds? If you suck dry all of the white mist, this might be considered." Zhuo had a deep expression. "Really?" The simple-minded black gold seal soldier immediately widened his eyes and was excited and spirited. "All right, see how I suck them dry." He opened his mouth. As expected, the white mist burrowed into his mouth like a whale inhaling. Zhuo's eyes turned. Just one wasn't enough. His eyes swept across the other little ones. The little ones retreated in fright. Zhuamo's gaze landed on Lil Pagoda and his eyes lit up. He felt very proud. Fortunately, he had taken along enough gluttons. Lil Pagoda, come here. Lil Pagoda came over with a timid expression. Good son, go suck in. This mist is a good thing. Think about it, the mist of the ancient era. With just a mouthful, you will be immune to all ills. With 2 mouthfuls, you will have your youth forever. With 3 mouthfuls? Oh. In conclusion, this is something good. Ancient era mist that could trouble even those totem warriors. At present, they would be sold in by the drop or as single strands. Good son, you cannot miss this opportunity, it will never come again. Zhuamo spoke cleverly. Lil Pagoda's eyes were down, its expression hurt as it slowly moved its fleshy body forward. The yin-yang fish at its forehead started to spin. Hiss! The surrounding white mist started to stream into the yin-yang fish at an even faster rate than the black gold seal soldier. The black gold seal soldier glanced sneakily at Lil Pagoda and gave out a rebellious snort. His mouth widened, his eyes widening, and his inhalation rate of the white mist suddenly increased. Zhuamo looked around in pride. People were short-sighted and could not understand that it would always be the gluttons that would conquer the world. With 2 great gluttons in his hand, he could vie for the world. Rain Hall. Tan Su coldly inspected the corpses on the ground. Without raising his head, he said, "It is people from Karma Temple, they didn't even put up a good fight." His tone was filled with dismissiveness. He had enough cause for this. From the moment he discovered them to killing them, he had only used 2 moves. He felt slightly disappointed. In his view, Karma Temple's Shen power was not acceptable. This kind of Shen power was actually able to become the cornerstone of a big sect. Tan Su had been full of anticipation towards the mission. Other than the importance of the mission itself, he was excited about the opponents he would encounter. Tan Su was outstanding among the Kunlun disciples. Otherwise, he would not have been chosen to become a child of Kunlun. There were other disciples in Kunlun that were about the same as him in strength. For example, Nie Chen and Zhenmeng Ling were not weaker than he was. However, sect competitions could not compare to true fighting outside. However, up until now, he had not encountered an opponent that could last for 3 moves. He felt bored by this. Nie Chen held an exquisite disc in his hand. If experts saw this, they would exclaim, "Determination Compass?" Determination Compass was one of the most famous Kunlun talismans. It was 9th grade, and it had been high up on the treasure rankings for a long time. While Shen devices were stronger and better treasures now, 9th grade talismans were still rare and had wondrous abilities. Nie Chen raised his head. Left side, 3 people. Tan Zu's expression became murderous. Snap snap, he cracked his joints. Don't interfere. Nie Chen ignored him and said directly, Ling Meng, attack as well. Finish as fast as possible, we do not have much time. He raised his head to look at the endless rain coming down the sky. He murmured to himself, Totem Colosseum interesting? Tan Zu's expression became displeased, but he did not make a sound. It was all right that he spoke towards Nie Chen in a defiant manner on a daily basis, but this time, Nie Chen was the leader for this mission. Tan Su was a rebellious person, but he cared about discipline. This was the conduct of Kunlun at present. As Lin Qian continued to govern, Kunlun's discipline tightened. What people usually did was not controlled, but once they entered battle, they had to be disciplined. Tan Su only thought inside that he had to be faster in attacking than last time. The 3 silently hid in the curtain of the rain without any presence. Their understanding of this ruin far surpassed everyone else. People had to admit defeat to Kunlun's great wealth. Kunlun had quickly found the previous incarnation of the ruins from its ocean of records, the Totem Colosseum. Kunlun truly had too many records. Their dominant status for thousands of years allowed them to collect innumerable precious records. The number of secrets unknown to people could not be counted. They found many details concerning the Totem Colosseum and prepared well. They knew each obstacle. They had taken along talismans to counter each obstacle. For example, the rain disguise cape that could hide them in the curtain of rain. Adding on 3 strong children of Kunlun, it was clear how much Kunlun wanted the Shen device nucleus. In the curtain of rain, the three figures appeared. They were careful, yet they did not detect that there were people hiding in the rain already. Chapter 793, Ghost Mistchild. It was the first time Zhuemo fought someone so strong. The other seemed to possess an undying body. The endless mist sea would heal his injuries. Compared to him, the mist monsters that Zhuemo and the others encountered in the mist hall weren't worth a mention. Every ghost mist head was like a heavy little mountain. Their shifting faces were filled with an eerie power. If the Sunshin power wasn't their bane, Zhuemo doubted that he could have managed to survive until now. However, at this time, Zhuemo didn't have any stray thoughts in his head. The green strand in his hand floated uncontrollably. The light at the tip of Zhuemo's finger suddenly gave off an ancient and desolate power. It was like the vast primal plain where everything grew naturally. There were no signs of civilization, only the vitality of nature. This Shin glyph he did not know the name of. This Shin glyph that he had not yet completely comprehended flooded into his mind as Zhuemo was forced to a precipice. The green strand suddenly rolled back as though it was summoned. The hair-thin strand tore through the air with a piercing shriek. Zhuemo's attention was completely focused as he searched for the feeling from that day. The light at his fingertip gradually grew brighter. Suddenly, his fingertip felt heavy. Joy flashed through Zhuemo's eyes. This was the feeling. Virm. A heart-shaking low roar came as though it was like a tide coming closer. The dancing green strand started to give off eerie light. It was like a luminescent seagrass dancing in the air. Any ghost mist head that was touched by the green strand would pop. The hair-thin green strand seemed to contain astounding power. With just light blows, even the largest ghost mist heads would turn to dust. This scene was amazing to see. Pop pop pop. The ghost mist heads rushing towards Zhuemo were destroyed. Before their destruction, the sorrowful wails of the ghost mist heads would send chills to anyone listening. Yet Zhuemo, who was immersed in the Shun glyph, did not seem to feel it. In a blink, the space in front of Zhuemo was clear. The mist giant saw the glowing green strand and exclaimed after a moment of stillness, "Green pulse string." Green pulse string? Zhuemo did not have time to think. The feeling coming from his fingertips was not one of heaviness but a dull burning pain as though he had rubbed the skin on his finger raw. Zhuemo gave a muffled grunt but ignored the pain. He continued to draw the Shun glyph that appeared in his mind. The green strand suddenly untied itself from Zhuemo's wrist. The green stand danced in front of Zhuemo, one end flying into the sky, and the other end under Zhuemo. In a flash, the green strand was pulled tight like a piano wire made from light connecting the sky and earth. The mist giant was clearly panicked. His body sank and he was about to flee into the mist sea. As long as he fled into the mist sea, he would be safe. Suddenly, his figure froze. The lower half of his body did not listen to him. Watching as the light of the green strand grew, he panicked even more. What was going on? He bent his neck and found to his shock that the lower half of his body had, at some time, become a dull gray. Only now he did suddenly recall the woman who had dodged before had channeled something into his body. His body could change at will, was immune to all toxins. As long as he was in the mist sea, he was immortal. Ever since he began guarding the Mist Eye tablet, after fighting so many totem warriors, there was only a handful of warriors that he felt threatened by. How could these two worms threaten him, an entity who had lived for tens of thousands of years and was peerlessly powerful? But the initial spread of the gray color hadn't attracted his attention. In the moments before this, he had dismissed it. What was this? The mist giant was slightly shocked, but he did not lose his composure. This was probably a great poison. He pondered. This was not a challenge to him. He was experienced. Poison was useless against him. The mist giant recovered his calm and smirked inside. This endless mist sea was his greatest support. He had experience in dealing with poisons. If he collapsed his body and then reconstructed it again, even the greatest poison was useless. Just like usual, he prepared to destroy his body. Yet, in the next moment, his expression changed. He was unable to break down his body. How was this possible? How was this possible? The mist giant was both shocked and angry. Suddenly, an eerie green light entered his vision. He couldn't help but turn his head. His soul was scared out of him. The ruler-straight green thread energy was so thick it was almost tangible from afar. This piano string that connected the earth to the sky was giving off a blinding and intense light. When the mist giant's eyes landed on Zhuamo's finger that was drawing in the air, he was motionless as though he had been struck by lightning. Impossible! The burning sensation from his fingertip grew stronger. Zhuamo had reached the end of what he could draw. His attention was focused and tense, so focused he had no other thoughts. He feared that if he slacked off slightly, all of this work would go to waste. As Zhuamo drew the Shun glyph, the green strand that was like a cord of light in front of him seemed to be drawn back by invisible hands. As the green thread was drawn out, the green lights quickly gathered at the point where the green strand was being pulled. The light marks increased. In a flash, a small green twister of light formed on the green strand. The enormous body of the mist giant was the best target at this time. The string twanged. The twisting green light drew out a blinding green streak in the air before striking the mist giant. The green light easily entered the body of the mist giant. The mist giant's body was frozen as though it was a statue. Suddenly, blinding green light came from inside the mist giant. Immediately after, rays of light broke through the mist giant like swords. The mist giant seemed like a hedgehog. Green tongues of flame suddenly shot out of the mist giant. Moments later, the mist giant was completely enveloped in flames and burned. Zhuamo finally came out of his strange state. There was nothing under his feet, and his body twisted as it instinctively maintained his position in the air. He finally found to his shock that all of his Shin power had been used up. Looking at the enormous ball of fire in the distance, Zhuamo finally sighed in relief. His gaze landed on the green strand that had lost all of its light. With a wave of his hand, the green strand flew back into his hands. Green pulse string. That seemed to be the 3 words that the mist giant had just said. Suddenly, a tiny white shadow flew out of the flames and was attempting to break into the air. Zhuamo could clearly see that the white shadow was a snowy white child. What was that? Seeing him about to flee, a hand appeared out of nowhere and grabbed his neck. The child's body froze. He didn't dare to move, but he grimaced inside. Holding the naked child, a gui flew next to Zhuamo, Ghost Mist Child. He's the Ghost Mist Child of the Ghost Mist tribe. Wei said with wonder. Ghost Mist Child? Zhuamo was clueless. They say that when the totem warriors of the Ghost Mist tribe reach the end of their cultivation, they would rejuvenate back to a child, with their bodies becoming completely white. That is a Ghost Mist Child, Wei explained. It seems very powerful. Zhuamo muttered. I am very powerful. The child on a Gui's hand couldn't resist speaking. Zhuamo, Wei, and Pu Yao were completely stunned. The Ghost Mist Child could hear them talking? I'm telling you, this old man was the strongest in the tribe in the past. The Ghost Mist Child said in a wizened tone. However, when paired with his young voice, it was strange to hear. Pu Yao's bloody pupil suddenly flashed. You can hear us talk? Of course. The Ghost Mist Child said impatiently. You too are souls, here in my territory, how can I not hear you? You are very weak to not know such a minor skill. You definitely cannot even leave the body of this boy. You know how to make your soul manifest outside your body? Pu Yao's bloody pupil flashed again. Soul manifest outside the body? I haven't heard of that. However, it is very simple to walk out of this boy's body, the Ghost Mist Child said offhandedly. How? Pu Yao asked shamelessly. The Ghost Mist Child suddenly stopped talking, knowing he had something of value now. He wasn't dumb. He had talked so much because he wanted to bargain with Zhuamo. Zhuamo was experienced. Seeing the other like this, he knew what the other's plan was. He smirked and said, Cooperate, and save yourself some physical pain. The Ghost Mist Child said dismissively, What can you do to this old man? If you kill this old man, you will never be able to leave the Mist Eye tablet. Do I need to kill you? Zhuamo was a vicious person and the Ghost Mist Child couldn't compare to him. He said coolly, I only need to put a wisp of sunshine fire into your body. He remembered what Wei said. The sunshine power he cultivated was the bane of the ghost mist tribe. The sunshine fire should also be effective against the ghost mist child. The ghost mist child's expression immediately turned ill as he shrieked, "You are so evil." Scared by just this? Zuo continued to smile coldly. Gu has all kinds of ways, this is nothing. Resist, keep resisting, Ji is waiting. You brought Ji in here, we need to settle this debt. Otherwise, this is only the start? The ghost mist child was about to cry. He had slept for tens of thousands of years and encountered such a freakish guy after waking up. Pu Yao said coldly, "Careful, do not let him near the mist sea below." The ghost mist child wanted to kill himself by hitting his head on the wall. How come every one of the enemy was so cunning? The mist hall that he had guarded for so many years. He really missed it. The people of the ancient era were so honest. Iltalk. The ghost mist child could not care for anything else now that the situation was like this. These people were clearly not friendly, and he could only be unfortunate to have landed in the hands of these people. The ghost mist child presented a chant. A black and white figure quickly broke free of Zhuomo's sea of consciousness. Haha. Pu Yao laughed into the sky with pleasure. He had been searching all this time for a way to leave Zhuomo's sea of consciousness. Only today was his wish fulfilled. This feeling was too good. Wei also had an expression of joy and novelty. No one could imagine the desire a person who was trapped for so many years felt towards freedom. Ague was unaffected by Pu Yao and Wei's suddenly appearances. Zuo looked at Pu Yao and Wei who were flying back and forth in the sky. He couldn't help but gave a sincere smile. These two antiques. The ghost mist child saw no one was paying attention to him and was about to attempt to break free. However, the girl who was grabbing his neck seemed to detect his intentions and her grip tightened. The ghost mist child's neck felt a burst of pain. He immediately became docile. Chapter 794, Encountering Tianhuan. Wind Hall Ruan Yuxian looked on at the battle occurring without a word. Long Yen held the advantage, even while fighting 1 against 3, but Ruan Yuxian didn't have any happiness in his expression. His gaze landed on the 3 that were struggling to survive. Mo Cloud C. These 3 were from Mo Cloud C. Ruan Yuxian recognized the identities of the 3 at first glance, and they were Mo Cloud C's elite. Mo Cloud C was Tianhuan's enemy, and Ruan Yuxian wanted to test them to see what was the strength of Mo Cloud C's elite forces. He had Long Yen attack. Long Yen quickly gained the advantage. This was not a surprise to Ruan Yuxian. Yet the following fighting caused Ruan Yuxian to become serious. The 3 from Mo Cloud C were at a disadvantage, but they were hardy. Even now, they were not defeated. The trio's battle formation was practiced, and they were in sync. Even if they were at a disadvantage, they were resilient. Long Yen was not using his full power, but Ruan Yuxian was still surprised by the 3's strength. If Mo Cloud C's elite were all of such a skill level, then it would be terrifying. Ruan Yuxian could see a lot of things. These 3 were average in strength, they had not cultivated Shin power for long, their talent was average, and they wore Mo Cloud C's Shin equipment. From every perspective, they did not have any outstanding traits. However, the trio used the power of the battle formations, Shin equipment, and their skills to their limits. This was what truly shocked Ruan Yuxian. For any faction, individual strength was not scary. Up until now, no one had appeared who had the power to destroy a sect on their own. No one knew how powerful the top-level experts really were, their offensive power, and their influence on the state of the conflict. Ever since they entered the era of Shin power, there had not been one battle between battalions that top-level experts had participated in. There were many factors that determined the war, such as the battle generals, the collective skill of the battalion, equipment, and others. What these 3 showed were the crucial aspects. Mo Cloud C had experts. Mo Cloud C was not weak, and the Mo Cloud Shin equipment was one of the strongest Shin equipment. Compared to Kun Luan and Tianhuan, Mo Cloud C's greatest weakness was their battalion. There was still a gap between their soldiers compared to Kun Luan and Tianhuan. This difference was a difference accumulated through thousands of years. It could not be made up in a few short years. Before today, Ruan Yuxian firmly believed that Mo Cloud C's abilities could not compare to Tianhuan. While Mo Cloud C had Gong Sun Cha and Bi Han, Tianhuan definitely led Mo Cloud C by a large margin. However, he did not think that now. These three were definitely not the exception. Mo Cloud C likely knew their weaknesses, and due to this, they carved their own path. They used battle formations and Shen equipment to unearth every thread of potential in their battalion. These things were not in the open, they could not be seen or held, but they could truly increase the collective strength of the battalion. Ruan Yuxian noted it down. When he returned, he would definitely report this to the sect leader. Tianhuan's Shen equipment was comparable to Mo Cloud C, and their battalions were higher in quality. However, they had not completely uncovered all of the advantages. If the two sides met, Ruan Yuxian was not sure how much of an advantage the battalions on his side would have. Finish this. Do not waste too much time on these pawns. Ruan Yuxian felt as though he had understood the mysteries and did not need to waste too much time on this. Long Yan's attacks grew in power as he heard this. The trio that had been in danger seemed as though they would be killed. Suddenly, a thick and gentle voice came, "Wouldn't it be a pity if you leave now?" The trio suddenly became alert and managed to stop Long Yan's attack. Among the furious winds, a withered body slowly walked out. His steps were slow, yet his movement was fast. While his voice sounded as though he was coming from far away, he had already reached them. Yes, when did it become that anyone could bully Mo Cloud C? A lazy voice carried soul-stealing seductiveness. A female like a rose elegantly came. The furiously wind did not cause any ripples on her dark red dress. Zhongru, Sung Liana. Ruan Yuxian's pupils suddenly contracted. Long Yan retreated from the fight and moved back to Ruan Yuxian's side. It was no wonder that the two were wary. The experts of Mo Cloud C were people that all the major sects had investigated. Nothing more need to be said of Tsing Liana. This female that cultivated Moon Shen power had mysteriously appeared around Zuemo. Just as everyone was searching for Shen power, she had already made small accomplishments in Shen power. No one knew how strong she was now. In the past, Zhongru was an unknown name. Yet when Zhongru came out of his death seclusion, the worldly apparition shook all of Mo Cloud C. The news was naturally passed back to the sects by the scouts. When the sects put more effort into the investigation, the information on Zhongru was filled in and everyone marveled. Zhongru was from low birth and was an unorthodox Xiao. He followed Zuemo from very early on and was extremely loyal to him. In order to help Zuemo, he swore the Buddha abandonment death wish and obtained wish power. Then he entered death seclusion, and he actually came out. Due to this, he immediately became known as one of the Shun power experts under Zuemo's command. When Ruan Yuxian saw Zhongru, he knew the rumors had not exaggerated. The methods that Diana Xiao used to cultivate were different, and so the signs when they had reached each higher level varied. However, while Zhongru had an emaciated body, his eyes were clear and penetrating. Ruan Yuxian felt even more fearful. While Diana methods paid great attention to tempering the body, there were also Diana Xiao that focused on the mind. Those methods thought of the body as a shell that was an obstacle to transcend. Zhongru was probably on that path. Darren said before that we will encounter Tianhuan experts here. I hadn't thought it would be so soon, Sung Lianer said serenely. Ruan Yuxian's heart shook. The other recognized them? He forced a smile. Tianhuan? Miss Tseng, you think we are Tianhuan? Tianhuan is a great sect. It is not something that roaming Xiao like us can claim connections with. Sung Lianer looked amusedly at Ruan Yuxian. She did not speak but caused Ruan Yuxian to become anxious. Well, no, after fighting. Zhongru's tone was still gentle and ethereal. The trio that had almost lost their lives became excited. These people had followed Zuemo for a long time, and could not avoid being infected with some of little Mo's poisonous tongue. One of them muttered, "Ho, they are terrified already?" Another person followed, "Of course, Tianhuan is nothing. If they encounter Grandmaster and Big Sister, They will be beaten like a dog. The third person coldly said, "We are cursing Tianhuan, please do not put yourselves in." Wan Yuxian felt anger rise in his throat. It was the first time in his life he had such a strong impulse. He wanted to tear apart the mouths of the trio. Long Yen was provoked, and his figure flashed as he shot towards the three. The killing energy was tangible and like a wind that swept towards the three. This time, he did not keep anything back in his attack. Suddenly, a thin hand appeared in front of him. So fast. Long Yan's eyes narrowed, and his fighting spirit grew. He continued forward rather than retreating. His presence increased again. With an angry shout, a bright Shen glyph suddenly lit up from his fist and reached his forearm. Shen power wildly circulated in the Shen glyph. Threads of light formed from the Shen glyph and rapidly gathered towards his fist. Long Yan's fist transformed into a manifestation that seemed similar to a dragon. It roared suddenly and everyone's minds shook. Zhong Ru's expression did not change. The thin hand waved slightly and formed a patch of void. Long Yan's ferocious punch seemed to attack empty space and didn't make a sound. In the eyes of everyone else, it seemed as though Long Yan's punch was swallowed by Zhong Ru's hand. The raging power and the tangible killing intent immediately disappeared. Just now, it had been furious waves, and now the ocean was calm in a blink. Even more eerie was that Long Yan's fist and Zhong Ru's thin palms seemed to be stuck together. The ghost mist child had never thought that there would be a day he would also become a captive. This day had also come so quickly he hadn't prepared mentally at all. And the first time he tripped up in over 10,000 years was on such a malicious and cunning person. Listening to the names of those cruel tortures, the ghost mist child felt a chill just hearing the names. There was only one thought left in his mind. How could there be such devious and evil people in the world? The pitiful guy's last bit of hope finally disappeared under Zhuemo's endless threats. He was obedient. He answered whatever Zhuemo asked. Zhuemo finally learned many things. The ghost mist child had been a strong person in the past, the strongest of that generation in the ghost mist tribe. He had been a powerful and influential person. However, people would encounter unpredicted fortune and misfortune. When he had been refining the Mist Eye tablet, he had been careless and his soul was sucked in. Losing his physical body, he comprehended the Mist Sea method. From then on, he was immortal. The Mist Eye tablet naturally grew in power. He was furious and sorrowful. He was not willing to accept a master. Any person that wanted to take the Mist Eye tablet would be heavily wounded by him. Yet he hadn't thought that he ended up in the hands of the person who created the Totem Colosseum. That time, it had been he himself that had been beaten into submission. In the end, his master had assigned him to guard the Mist Hall. After his master died, and the Totem Colosseum was closed, he was locked in the Totem Colosseum, unable to see the light of the day. He finally saw people come in, he immediately became alert. In the past, the Mist Hall had always been thought as the hardest first hall to pass. He hadn't thought that he would end up in the hands of scoundrels. He was sad and indignant. Zhuemo was overjoyed. He finally learned the origins of the green strand from the ghost mist child. Green pulse string, an unique item from the ancient era. It was formed by the universe, and no one knew of its origins or what it was. They only knew that it could grow. Every 1,000 years, it would grow half a li. This 7 li long green pulse string had grown for at least 14,000 years. Hearing this, Zhuemo caressed the item. Good treasure. Chapter 795, Yield Other Than the Green Pulse String. Zhuemo naturally asked about other things such as the setup of the Totem Colosseum and where the dangers were. Regretfully, the ghost mist child was clearly a recluse, and a super recluse that stayed inside for more than 10,000 years. Except for the small area of the Mist Hall, he had never stepped into any other hall. Of course, to show off that he had some connections, the guy said that he was friends with the other Totem Colosseum guardians in spirit. Friends in spirit for a long time. Zhuemo almost cursed out loud. From the words, he knew there was no relationship. Most of this guy's knowledge has been wrung out. How should we deal with him? Zhuemo looked at Pu Yao and Wei, saying, He's a troublesome fellow to keep. He might secretly trip us. It is more convenient to kill him." The ghost mist child bellowed, his snowy white face turning even whiter. "Don't kill me. If you kill me, you will not be able to leave." Was the spell you just gave us a fake?" Zhuamo's face turned murderous immediately. The ghost mist child frozen and his face was ashen. Had he given them the true spell just now? He thought about how Zhuamo had threatened him repeatedly, and he didn't remember at all what he had confessed in his days. It is better to kill him. Pu Yao did not look at the ghost mist child but the mist sea with admiration. This mist eye tablet is a good place. His intentions of taking over the place was clear. Wei said with a smile, "Good." The ghost mist child was struck dumb in fear. "No. Don't kill me." Zhuamo looked down at him and said, "Mo Cloud Sea never supports wastrels. If you don't have any value, why should we keep you alive?" "Value?" The ghost mist child seemed to grab onto the last bit of hope. He shook and said, "Value? Value? I have value." "Oh, then speak." Zhuamo saw the other entering his trap and rejoiced inside. However, he showed an uncaring expression on the surface. "I'm willing to give you the Mist Shin methodology of the Ghost Mist tribe," the Ghost Mist child said hurriedly. "Mist Shin methodology?" Zhuamo made a sound and then asked, "How does it compare to the Sun Shin methodology?" He thought inside this could be given to Yiling, it would be useful. The Ghost Mist child stilled. A moment later, he shook his head. "I don't know. See, you want to use just the Ghost Mist Shin methodology to persuade ye, you underestimate ye." Zhuamo had a disdainful expression. The Ghost Mist child gritted his teeth. "This lowly one is willing to be in Darren's command." Zhuamo's eyes lit up. The Ghost Mist child continued, "While these two can take over the Mist Eye tablet, this is an object that this lowly one forged. While the two can use some of its power, the methods are different, and they cannot use the Mist Eye tablet's true power." Zhuamo had been waiting for this. He deliberately pretended to be thoughtful and said, "You say this, and I do feel that the power of this Mist Eye tablet is acceptable. However, if you flee into the Mist Sea, wouldn't ye lose both wealth and manpower?" The Ghost Mist child felt sweat roll at little Mo guess lose both wealth and manpower. He hurriedly said, "This lowly one is willing to have Darren's imprint. If Darren uses this Shen methodology to leave behind Jinji, this small one will have no place to flee." Zhuamo took the Shen methodology from the Ghost Mist child and quickly scanned it. Then he looked amusedly at the Ghost Mist child. The Ghost Mist child's heart beat rapidly as Zhuamo stared at him. "One should treasure life. Since you are willing to yield, a good person like ye will naturally follow the will of heaven." Zhuamo smiled as he looked at the Ghost Mist child. "However, this method of yours is too complex. Ye doesn't need it. Yes, soul-setting divine light is simpler." When the Ghost Mist child heard the words soul-setting divine light, he was stunned. "What? You are not willing?" Little Mo Goose said darkly. The Ghost Mist child wanted to cry, but he knew that the situation did not allow for him to hesitate. This little man in front of him was definitely a vicious person who wouldn't blink at killing. "I am willing to yield to Darren's command." He bent his head and bowed. Once he said it, he felt better. In the past, hadn't his previous master also been so eerie and hard to predict? Also, Master had many experts with him, cultivated the Sun Shin power, and had a treasure like the green pulse string. Such a person even 10,000 years ago was outstanding. If he was able to work under such a person, he might be able to recover his true body. The Ghost Mist child immediately felt his heart light up. Thunder boomed overhead. Dazzling electric eels split the sky. They formed and dissipated constantly. Wei Xing walked forward step by step. His gaze looked directly forward, his steps were determined. His eyes that were like bloody glass were filled with fighting spirit. Behind him, 5 guards followed closely. They looked at the straight figure in front of them, their eyes filled with respect and reverence. The 5 of them had been sent to the Thunder Hall together. The 5 carefully traveled. They hadn't expected to encounter Wei Xing and immediately sighed in relief. Zhuamo's plan was completely ruined. The guards without the advantage of numbers could not channel the power of the combat formation. the situation of the guards in the Totem Colosseum became very dangerous. Fortunately, they encountered Wei Sheng. Wei Sheng had a transcendent status in Mo Cloud Sea. It wasn't just because he was Zhuo Mo's eldest Shixiang. Wei Sheng's reputation had been built by using his sword. The present Wei Sheng was far from the unknown person of the past. He was thought of as one of the sword xiu in the world with the most potential. Even someone like Lin Qian praised him endlessly. Wukong's sword sect had become a legend. It had created a lord that had the ability to vie for the world, a great battle general that could rank fourth among the 10 great Xiuzhi battle generals, a peerless sword xiu that could reach the peak of the sword path, adding on Chun Yucheng and Luo Li. No one would have thought that an unknown little backwater sect would be so strong. Wei Sheng used his sword to create his reputation. This status was one that even the holy ground of sword xiu, Kunlun, had to admit. Wei Sheng suddenly stopped in his steps. A brawny figure appeared in front of him. "You are Wei Sheng?" the incomer said in a deep voice. He did not disguise his status as a Mo at all. His body that seemed to be smelted from copper was filled with a wild power. His head was bare and his upper half was naked. There was a red mark on his forehead. Round copper hoops the thickness of fingers hung from his ears. He wore short leather pants and stood with bare feet. "I am Wei Sheng." Wei Sheng did not avoid the other's gaze and asked politely, "You are?" Wei Sheng could see that when he admitted that he was Wei Sheng, the other's eyes suddenly lit up. Wei Sheng was greatly familiar with that kind of gaze. That was a gaze filled with fighting spirit. The other grinned and showed 2 rows of white teeth. The 5th Mo god of the Mo Shin Temple, Wu, Zhongru and Long Yan fought intensely. Ruan Yuxian and Tseng Liana were not idle. The two were fighting. However, the more they fought, the more shocked Ruan Yuxian was. He had thought highly of Tseng Liana but hadn't expected that the other's strength surpassed his predictions. Tseng Liana's Shin power was not vast, but stable and enduring. From beginning to end, it did not show any signs of drying up. The other's Shin techniques became unpredictable. Who said that ancient Shin methodologies did not have variations and one based on strength? Ruan Yuxian became irritated as he fought. The Shin technique of Tian Huan focused on variation, yet he was suppressed in this field by Tseng Liana. That crescent moon of Tseng Liana's was full of variation. What irritated Ruan Yuxian even more was that the other didn't just have endless variation, her attacks were unusually sharp, especially the moon essence chop. No matter what Shin technique he used, it would be bisected. The attack was wondrously sharp. What Ruan Yuxian did not know that the moon Shin power that Tseng Liana cultivated was not from some minor Shin temple. The moon Shin temple had not been as strong as the sun Shin temple, but that was only because the moon Shin temple attacks were not as offensively powerful. The power of the moon Shin temple was great, and the moon Shin methodology it passed down was not an ordinary one. Tseng Liana had improved every day in the years she had stayed with Zhuo Mo. However, there were no opportunities for her to fight, so no one knew her strength. The only one that knew her strength was Zhuo Mo. Ruan Yuxian naturally was exceptional fighter in order to be given such an important duty by Tian Huan. Tian Huan's Shin power was centered on the Shin glyph. The magnitude of their strength depended on their comprehension of Shin glyphs. In terms of ferocity, Ruan Yuxian fell behind Long Yan, but in terms of Shin glyph comprehension, he was the strongest of the trio. In other words, he was the strongest of the 3. The Shin glyph at his chest suddenly lit up. His presence abruptly changed. In a flash, he seemed to change into a completely different person. An indescribably pressuring presence covered Tseng Liana. Compared to Long Yan's Shin glyph, Ruan Yuxian's Shin glyph was more complete. Unlike Mo Cloud Sea's inscription technique, the Shin glyphs of Tian Huan grew naturally as they comprehended the Shin glyphs. The deeper the understanding of the Shin glyph, the more complete the Shin glyph was, the stronger the Shin power produced by the Shin glyph was, and the number of Shin techniques that one could use was also greater. The Shin glyph that Ruan Yuxian had was the mountain Shin glyph of Tian Huan. This Shin glyph had been used by the great ones of the ancient era to understand mountains. It contained some of the wonders of mountains and was peerlessly powerful. It was the first complete Shin glyph that Tianhuan had discovered, and was the top choice for the disciples to cultivate. While the mountain Shin glyph was not hard to learn, it was hard to master. There were countless Tianhuan disciples, but the number of them that could cultivate it to a deep level was only a handful. Wan Yuxian was the best among them. He had his own interpretation of mountain. This caused his mountain Shin glyph to be different from other sect disciples. Mountain Shin glyph. Even the elders and powers in the sect praised his mountain Shin glyph. He was filled with confidence in his own power. Even if he could not win against Zheng Lianer, there were no problems in protecting himself. He thought of the orders from his sect before he had left, and his fighting spirit grew even more. Chapter 796, Rain Commanding Banner. Wan Yuxian's presence suddenly changed. He seemed to become a tall mountain, vast and unmoving. Zheng Lianer's eyes lit up. Naturally, she could see Wan Yuxian's change. It had been so long since she encountered such an interesting opponent. As a emerald, Zheng Lianer liked to fight. However, she usually suppressed the urge. It was rare to encounter such a strong opponent. This ignited her fighting spirit. So what if it was a mountain? Zheng Lianer's hands were spread open. The crescent moon behind her that was larger than she was tall spun in front of her. It twisted nimbly around her body. Moon, moon, strike. Zheng Lianer's unique voice that was both seductive and serene entered Wan Yuxian's ears. The moon was like a blade. A sharp and icy presence came at Wan Yuxian's head. Wan Yuxian did not have time to think, and chanted, "A mountain scene is not a mountain." The vast presence immediately changed to becoming something unpredictable, like a mountain shrouded in the mist. The moon accurately struck Wan Yuxian. Zheng Lianer's eyebrow jumped up. She could see that the moon had hit its target, but Zheng Lianer could feel that the attack had hit empty space. This was a masterful technique. Wan Yuxian's counterattack immediately came, his right hand grabbing for Zheng Lianer. Zheng Lianer felt her view darken as though a mountain was crashing down on her. She had the feeling that she could not dodge it. However, Zheng Lianer shattered the feeling in an instant. So what if it was a mountain? Her fingertip drew a curve along the inside crescent of the moon, and the inner curve of the crescent moon in front of her suddenly lit up. She moved her hand, and a string of light appeared in her hand. The crescent moon was a bow. Her hand pulling the bow open, there were small crescent moons on the bowstring. They were icy and glowing like wind chimes that gave off clear sounds. Ding, ding, ding. The pleasing sounds of the bells were like an enchanting tune that caused people to sink into it. Dozens of little moon crescents drew out dozens of eerie and cold curves as they flew towards Wan Yuxian. Wan Yuxian's expression was grave. The moment that Zheng Lianer pulled the bowstring, dozens of waves of killing intent locked onto him. There was a strong feeling of danger. His hand that was in the air immediately moved away from Zheng Lianer and slapped towards the little crescent moon flying in the air. Yet these palm-sized crescent moon were strange. Their flight paths did not have any pattern to speak of. Wan Yuxian's blow landed on empty air. However, Wan Yuxian was not so easily defeated. With a cold snort, his blow changed. It became a steep peak with precipitous cliffs that once again headed for Zheng Lianer. Zheng Lianer ignored it. She raised her arm, her fingers spread. The crescent moon in front of her started to spin like a fan. It spun faster and faster, turning into a curtain of light that covered Zheng Lianer. The curtain flew towards Wan Yuxian's blow. Wan Yuxian was overjoyed. This was a chance. He could not attend to anything else. All of his Shin power was gathered, the Shin glyph at his chest growing like young tendrils that spread along his arm. The bright light followed the Shin glyph into his right hand. A hand imprint left his hand. The hand imprint did not move fast, yet the entire space seemed to be moved by this hand. No matter how it struggled, it could not break free. All of space was being pulled. It headed for Zheng Lianer with an indescribable pressure. From the start of the battle to now, Wan Yuxian's presence reached its peak. At this time, he was like a tall mountain unable to be moved by the power of mortals. Zheng Lianer's eyes grew brighter. She did not retreat, the light covering her growing as she moved forward and bravely charged straight up. Her speed was like a meteor, the crescent moon spinning rapidly appearing as a curved shield of light that covered her. The little crescent moons flying in the air hummed in unison. They drew out strange paths and seemed to be attracted to Tseng Liana. From far away, Tseng Liana appeared like a meteor followed by dozens of streams of light. With a soul-shaking roar, Tseng Liana charged at Ruan Yuxian without any finesse. The two collided face-on. Boom! Blinding light was released from where the two collided and immediately swallowed the two of them. The rippling air currents were like sharp arrows that could not be stopped. Having taken in the ghost mist child, Zhou Mo felt very proud. The mist eye tablet was also a very good treasure. Zhou Mo had personally tasted its power. If not for the help of Ague, him alone was definitely not a match. However, the mist eye tablet was seriously damaged by Zhou Mo and Ague, and needed time to regain the significant power it lost. It was dangerous to fight in as the weak side against strong opponents, but if they succeeded, then they could eat until they were full. The mist eye tablet immediately became one of the strongest weapons in Zhou Mo's hands. Even though it was damaged to some degree, it was still powerful. After taking the mist eye tablet, the mist hall was like Zhou Mo's backyard. The pitiful Lil Pagoda and Black Gold Seal Soldier were still in the middle of their indigestion. However, according to the ghost mist child, the mist that the two had consumed were not detrimental to them and would be of benefit. Zhou Mo finally put down his worries. They did not encounter anyone in the entire mist hall. Was his luck so good? Zhou Mo couldn't help but feel happy. After the wind, rain, thunder, mist and snow halls are the four palaces: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. While the ghost mist child was not acquainted with other people, he was from here, and knew more than Zhou Mo who came in blind. Then we will enter now? Which palace is the easiest to pass? Zhou Mo rubbed his hands. They are all difficult. The ghost mist child shook his head. The four palaces are for the 4 seasons. The Sun Tribe warrior that defeated me in the past was defeated in the Winter Palace. I had thought that he would be able to make it, and it was unexpected he failed at the last step. He was the strongest I've ever seen. The ghost mist child couldn't help but lament. Hearing this, Zhou Mo immediately put away the smile on his face. Zhou Mo knew very well how strong the Sun Tribe had been in the past. The other was able to defeat the ghost mist child in a true battle. The other's strength would definitely be great. Yet such a strong person was defeated in the 4 palaces. The dangers of the 4 palaces could be imagined. I have other comrades that came in with me, can we find them? Zhou Mo thought of his guards and couldn't help but worry. The ghost mist child said, "It is not difficult to find them. I guard the mist hall, I can still use some of the Totem Colosseum's abilities. However, there is no way to get to them. The 5 halls are not connected. However, if they pass through the 5 halls, Darren will be able to see them before they enter the 4 palaces." Zhou Mo was worried and hurriedly described everyone's appearances. The ghost mist child had some abilities. With a wave of his hand, a mist mirror appeared with everyone's surroundings. Zhou Mo saw that while everyone was fighting, they were not in danger. His worries were eased. After watching a while, Zhou Mo suddenly asked, "Why are there no hall masters to be seen in the other halls?" The ghost mild child sighed. The other 4 hall masters existed before, and they were all very strong. But who can last through tens of thousands of years? If I was not a Yin soul, and had the mist eye tablet that forms its own world, I would have dissipated as well. Zhou Mo thought about it and found it was right. Those that could survive from the ancient era were basically not the normal ones. He suddenly thought of an important question. "I heard there is a Shun device nucleus here. Do you know where it is?" The ghost mist child stilled and then understood. So Master has come for that? Zhou Mo was full of anticipation. "You know where it is?" The ghost mist child nodded. "The item exists. The previous Master gathered treasures from all over, desiring to forge a Shin device. This was something that the previous Master was preparing to leave behind for those later. But before it could be forged, the previous Master disappeared, and the Totem Colosseum was closed." "Where is it?" Zuomo's eyes were bright as he listened. A thing from such a powerful person that was to be left behind for those after them, it definitely was something good. The ghost Mistchild thought. It should be at the previous master's residence. We need to pass through the 4 palaces. Zuomo did not find that strange when he heard it. Where do we go now? We will wait for your comrades outside the gates of the 4 palaces, the ghost Mistchild said. Under the ghost Mistchild's guidance, Zuomo's group quickly left the Mist Hall. The ghost Mistchild's original Jinji had disappeared long ago. Adding on the Jinji that Zuomo put in using the soul-setting divine light, he actually benefited and the ghost mist changed again. He was familiar with the Totem Colosseum, and the group quickly came to the gates of the 4 palaces of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. 4 bronze gates stood, carved with diagrams representing the 4 seasons. The rumors say the 5 halls of the Colosseum each have their own wonders. Nietzsche said emotionally. Even after being sealed for more than 10,000 years, it is still so magnificent. How great would have the scene back then? A few hints of yearning flashed through Zhen Lingmeng's eyes, but she quickly recovered. The records say that the 5 halls of the Totem Colosseum all have a hall master. We did not encounter a hall master on our way, it must have died already. What does shimmy mean? Nietzsche said thoughtfully. While the hall master of the Rain Hall is dead, the presence of the hall has not decreased. There should be a treasure sustaining the area here, Zhen Lingmeng said. Then what are we chattering about? Go find it. Tan Su said impatiently. I had thought that those Yao would have some skill, who knew they were so weak. We haven't encountered one hard fight up until now. I think that the reputation of this Totem Colosseum is exaggerated. The 3 had encountered 3 Yao experts just now, but the difference in power had been clear. They had quickly won. Nietzsche was not as battle-thirsty as Tan Su. He shook his head and said, getting the item is the right thing. As to killing, other than Tianhuan and Mo Cloud C, the others are not interesting. Tan's eyes suddenly lit up. I wonder if Mo Cloud C's Wei Xing has come. Eldest Shixiang always praises this person. If I encounter him, I will kill him. Let's see when we meet him. Nietzsche agreed with Tan's words. If they had to choose the person that Kunlun disliked the most, it was definitely Wei Xing. Kunlun was the holy ground of Sword Xiu. Every Kunlun disciple was proud of this. Yet Wei Xing now showed signs of surpassing this, and every Kunlun disciple disliked it. There, Zhen Lingmeng suddenly pointed in a direction. The other 2 hurriedly looked over and saw a corpse. There was a cloth banner swaying in the wind next to the corpse. Written on the banner was an ancient rain character. Zhen Lingmeng was widely read and joyfully surprised. The rain commanding banner. Chapter 797, Kun Luan's soul Lin Qian carefully pushed open the door. The blinding light from the seal formations in the room caused his heart to hurt. A hunched figure sat cross-legged in the middle of the room. If people saw this scene, they would be astonished. This hunched figure was the sect leader of Kunlun. Yet his arms had disappeared, and only half of his snowy white brows were light. He would occasionally cough, and with every cough, his hunched figure would heave and shudder. Lin Qian's nose felt sore. Thinking about Master's presence in the past, his heart twisted. Master, he called lightly. The sect leader heard him and he straightened in difficulty. He said gently, Qian has come. His face was covered in wrinkles, his eyes blurry, his voice hoarse like an elderly person at the last days of his life. Yes. Lin Qian was afraid that he would be overwhelmed and cry. He only answered with one word. He quickly walked next to Master and started to take Master's pulse to check his wounds. Master had been injured when he had been exploring the ancient ruins. His arms were cut off, his body completely void of Ling power, his organs null of all life. Lin Qian thought of all the ways he could, but he could just barely manage to keep Master breathing. This gray presence didn't have any life at all. Lin Qian's heart twisted in pain. He knew that Master had wanted to forge a Shun device that truly belonged to him. Kunlun's capable person was the first Shin device of Kunlun, yet there were many parts about it that were not perfect. Master had not been content. You do not need to worry for me. The sect leader knew that his disciple was sad and comforted him. I have lived for so long, I've lived enough. Master. Lin Qian heard this and his tears could not be held back any longer. Child, you are a sect leader, you cannot be childish like this. The sect leader smiled. His gray-white face was lifeless. You have done well. I'm not worried handing Kunlun to you. Lin Qian sobbed soundlessly. I only reached a clear mind a few days ago and realized many things. Mo Cloud C's Shin power is unique and completely different from Kunlun. We cannot just copy it. What Kunlun cultivates is the sword. The sword is the truth. What we need is a Shin sword, not a raiment. The Shin device is good, but it is not suited to Kunlun. One sword defeats all, that is the way of Kunlun. The sect leader's hoarse voice echoed in the room. Lin Qian could hear that Master was warning him, and felt even more pained. I am satisfied at completing my greatest wish before death. You should not feel sad for me, the sect leader said gently. The sword that I found for you has great origins. It is one of the strongest Shen swords in the ancient era. While it has been sealed for a long time, it still has its power. Do not fail to live up to its reputation. This disciple will not fail you. Lin Qian stopped his tears and gave a sword oath. The sect leader nodded. I only have one wish left. Master, please speak. Lin Qian's gaze was determined. He decided inside that no matter what, he had to complete Master's wish. The sect leader raised his head. My arms and Ling power are gone, my life is gone, the only thing left is my soul. I wish to throw my soul into the immemorial Shen sword, and strengthen the sword's soul. Lin Qian's tears that had just stopped began streaming down again. He shook his head. Master thought, nurturing the sword with the soul was a cruel affair. The soul would experience endless pain and hardship, unable to ever reincarnate. This is Master's last wish. The sect leader's blurred eyes suddenly became sharp. We have been raised by Kunlun. I, as the sect leader, will use my blood and soul to repay Kunlun. If you do not promise, I will not die in peace. Master. Lin Qian lost his voice as he sobbed. I have decided, the sect leader said steely. He closed his eyes and did not speak. The light of the formation flashed, Shen power flooding outwards. In the center, an ancient sword floated in the air. All of the Kunlun elders, all of the core disciples were gathered here. Everyone had sorrowful expressions. When Lin Qian appeared carrying the sect leader on his back, everyone knelt in unspoken agreement. The sect leader had great authority in the sect and was revered by everyone. Seeing the sect leader wither to this state, everyone felt a great pain. Kunlun is now in your hands. The sect leader's voice was hoarse and quiet. Those that heard cried. Someone said sorrowfully, we do not dare to begrudge our bodies. The sect leader nodded, comforted. Lin Qian's tears rained down and he could not speak. He could only carry the sect leader forward. The sect leader did not say much. His soul came out of his body and he stepped into the seal formation. The sect leader had great cultivation, and his sword's soul was pure. The immemorial sword in the center of the seal formation suddenly pulled at him. The sword's soul of the sect leader turned into a stream of light and entered the sword. The surrounding Kunlun elders and disciples stared to cry. Inside the sword, a soul endured astounding pain as it murmured. Qianer, Master can only guide you up to here. Inside Kunlun realm, a sword essence pierced the sky, and all swords hummed together. The world was astounded. Wei Xing was completely covered in blood, his clothing torn. He held the blood sword in his hand. In front of him, Wu Le's expression was ashen. There is such a strong person in the world. Wu Lu murmured to himself. After saying this, he fell face forward without any presence left. Wei Xing looked disheveled, but his expression was normal. The god-killing blood sword in his hand had just finished drinking blood and was unusually eerie. Suddenly, Wei Xing seemed to feel something and raised his head. Almost at the same moment, the god-killing blood sword in his hands seemed to be excited. The blood light erupted and shot into the sky. A blood pillar dozens of zhang thick erupted. Inside the pillar of light, Wei Sheng was like a gold of killing ascending. Wei Sheng raised his head and gazed at the sky. He felt the furious fighting spirit coming from the god-killing blood sword in his hand. He took a deep breath and pushed down the almost boiling fighting spirit he felt. His clear glassy eyes of blood were filled with shock. There was such a strong and powerful sword essence in the world. A sword essence that ruled the world. His excitement at beating his opponent just now completely disappeared. Wei Sheng looked dazedly at the sky, his shock slowly disappearing from his eyes. What replaced it was strong fighting spirit and murderousness. Kunlun. Wei Sheng murmured to himself as his hand unconsciously gripped the god-killing blood sword in his hand. Only one place would have such a strong sword essence that it would cause hopelessness. That was Kunlun. Wei Sheng felt his spirit rise in his chest. Suddenly, nearby, the lightning was astoundingly thick as though something was stimulated by the sword essence that came down. Wei Sheng's mind moved and he hurriedly flew towards where the lightning was gathered. The closer he flew, the more surprised he was. The lightning was shooting into the sky from the ground. Was there some treasure here? He quickly flew to the origin of the lightning. There was a bronze mirror laying on the ground. The word thunder was engraved on the bronze mirror. The copper mirror flashed with light and electrical snakes swam over it. Crack! A lightning snake suddenly shot into the sky. When the lightning snake left the bronze mirror, it would grow rapidly until it was the thickness of an arm and tear apart the sky. Zuemo raised his head and looked into the sky. The ghost mist child also looked in shock at the sky. He murmured to himself, "Such strong sword essence. So there is such a strong person in the present era?" He had yielded to Zuemo, yet he could still see that the strongest of this era was much weaker compared to the ancient era. Yet this sword essence that seemed to conquer the world and was undefeatable shocked him. How could such a strong sword essence appear in this era? Suddenly, he felt something familiar within the sword essence that caused him to shake and unconsciously blurt out, "Immemorial." Immemorial? Zuemo moved his gaze to look at the ghost mist child. The ghost mist child said in a dreamlike fashion, "Immemorial is the most famous Shin sword in the R legends. They say that the wielder of this sword will become an Emperor Sky." Familiar with the sun gold leaf, Zuemo knew what Emperor Sky meant. In the ancient era, the strongest of each era would become the leader of all the tribes and be called Emperor Sky. Emperor Sky? Zuemo showed a cold smirk, murder undisguised in his eyes. If he wants to be Emperor Sky, he needs to see if I agree or not. The ghost mist child stilled and then suddenly reacted. He stammered out, "Is this Master's enemy?" Zuemo glanced at him and said uncaringly, "Yes, enemies to the death." "What, you're afraid?" The ghost mist child quickly reacted. He looked at Zuemo's unfriendly face and hurriedly expressed his attitude. "Master, what are you saying? Master's enemies are my enemies." Zuemo moved his gaze away, but his face turned dark. Such a strong sword essence that could be felt even here. It was most likely because of the immemorial Shen sword that the ghost mist child spoke of. Lin Qian's individual strength was unparalleled. In the past, Zuemo and a few others had to work together to stop one of his blows. Supposedly, Lin Qian had been the one to create Kunlun's Shen methodology. No one knew what level his strength was at, but Zuemo knew that it was definitely strong, very strong. If Zuemo had to pick another person in the world that could stand shoulder to shoulder with Wei Xingxixiang, he would definitely pick Lin Qian. And now, with this immemorial Shen sword, Lin Qian's strength probably reached a terrifying level. It could possibly be a height that no one in the world could reach. While Zuemo did not fear the other, when he thought that his worst enemy had obtained such a Shin device, Zuemo felt as uncomfortable as he had swallowed a fly. "Kunlun, let's wait and see." Swoho. Luo Li had an expression of helplessness. There was a group of guards behind him. The great majority of the guards were with him. However, when he encountered the people from Heartleaf Diana sect, they had charged forward without a second world. The sect leader of Heartleaf Diana sect hadn't thought that the enemy would fight without even a greeting. He lost the round. There were many guards in this group, a dozen that formed a battle formation. They were an even match for the elders of Heartleaf Diana sect. The sect leader had some skill, and the two sides were at a deadlock. The Heartleaf Diana sect leader's Shen power was vast while Luo Li's fighting method was eerie. Li was skilled in strange and unorthodox methods that made great trouble for the other. The peerless sword essence of the immemorial came from the sky without any warning. Li opened her breath-stealing beautiful eyes. Chapter 798, Comprehension. Li's cold eyes showed a rare ripple of emotion. Peerless sword essence covered the sky above them. She raised her face, her crystal-like eyes quietly changed. Luo Li's heart stilled. A strange feeling rose. He and Li were two sides of one body. The connection between them was the most unique existence in the world. Both Luo Li and Li existed between life and death. The two's minds were connected and were like one. However, there were slight differences between them. Li was a sword spirit manifested from Luo Li's sword essence, from intangible to tangible. Luo Li had comprehended life-death lock. From life going into death, from tangible to intangible. These slight changes caused the two of them to have different abilities. Detecting Li's change, Luo Li became slightly nervous. Li's personality was cold and distant. When she had been a sword spirit, Luo Li had known her strength well. Yet the present Li was like a completely new life form. While the two were of the same mind and from the same origin, two aspects of one body. Luo Li did not know what abilities that Li had. Li's personality was cold, and she would never speak of her own accord. Luo Li was not as sensitive to sword essence as Li. His skill was his unique understanding of life and death. This was a comprehension that life-death lock gave him. Sword essence. Luo Li looked into the sky and then turned to stare nervously at Li. Suddenly, Luo Li's expression changed slightly. Lil's presence was changing. How come it was like this? Luo Li was astounded. A strange feeling rose. He knew that this was because Li's changes were reflected on him. He became slightly dazed. In order to become a sect leader, he naturally was strong. Heartleaf Diana sect was not a top sect like Kunlun and Tianhuan, but it was still not something that any little sect could compare to. The Heartleaf Diana sect leader immediately detected Li's change. He saw this seemingly beautiful, icy, and lifeless female changing in front of him. It was as though she was shedding her soft and gentle appearance to reveal a cold sword edge. The edges were like water, a vast blue body of water. Yet the edges disappeared after appearing. The female suddenly became ethereal and unpredictable. She was clearly in front of him, but in his perception, the space seemed empty. This strange feeling was so uncomfortable that he wanted to spit blood. It felt as though suddenly, the feeling of having everything within his grasp disappeared. Having fought innumerable times, this was the first time the leader of Heartleaf Diana sect had such a strange feeling. This woman was strange. Countless thoughts flashed through his mind, but the sect leader could not attend to them. While he did not understand what was going on with the changes of the female, this kind of change was not something good for him. Murderousness rose. Any person that cultivated the Heartleaf Diana sect's Shen power would have a leaf-shaped mark on their palm that indicated their strength. The Heartleaf Diana sect leader was the only one in the sect that had reached a level of 7 branches and 7 leaves. Without any hesitation, the sect leader attacked with a killing move. His expression devout and serious, 7 verdant tree leaves flew out of his palm. They danced softly in the air with concealed murderousness. The 7 green leaves drew out 7 green streaks of light that crisscrossed. 7-leaf Diana heart. Li did not seem to see it. Her gaze was still looking into the distance, but her presence became increasingly ethereal. Luo Li's eyes became disbelieving. She was comprehending sword essence. It's Kunlu, the sect leader of Tianhuan said. His face was filled with shock and anxiousness. In the history of the Xiuzhou world, such strong sword essence had never appeared, and he had never even heard of it. Kunlun and Tianhuan seemed to be comparable in strength, but all this time, Kunlun had been suppressing Tianhuan. If Tianhuan and Kunlun could be said to have been on good terms during the era of the Four Realms, then Kunlun was Tianhuan's strongest enemy and most important opponent. Now, this great enemy suddenly possessed a terrifyingly powerful secret weapon. Tianhuan was alarmed. There was an old person sitting in front of the sect leader. This old person was the mysterious chief elder of Tianhuan who had found the secret of the Shen glyphs. The chief elder's expression was serious. The sword essence just now had been too powerful, so powerful it almost surpassed the limits of their imagination. He asked gravely, "We need to investigate this matter." Kunlun. The sect leader said, "Shirji will remember." The chief elder's status was above everyone in the sect. He was a generation older than the sect leader. Adding on that he had found the secret of the Shen glyph and pushed Tianhuan into the era of Shen power with just his power. His achievement and service was so great that even the sect leader was willing to be commanded by him. Chief elder was obsessed with Shen glyphs and didn't like to interfere with sect matters. However, Kunlun's sword essence was too astounding. Chief elder had seen worldly apparitions before, yet being able to detect it from Kunlun meant that it was an almost unimaginably powerful existence. For Kunlun, this was the worst news. He was worried, but he still maintained a calm expression. Suddenly, the bracelet on his hand suddenly lit up. He thought of something and hurriedly activated a spell. A mirage cloud came out of the bracelet. The cloud changed and the scene of an intense fight appeared in front of them. "It's Wuxian." The sect leader was slightly shocked. He recognized Wang Wuxian at a glance. Wang Wuxian was the leader of the mission this time. The sect leader did not look away. The fighting was intense and it could seem that Rou Xian was losing. "HM, you recognize this person?" The chief elder pointed at Wang Wuxian's opponent and asked. The sect leader thought for a moment and found the answer. "It's Imo Cloud seized Zheng Liana. She cultivates moon Shen power. Supposedly, it is a complete inheritance." Hearing this, chief elder's eyes became brighter and he murmured to himself, "No wonder, no wonder." The sect leader was curious, yet he did not dare to disturb the chief elder in fear of interrupting his thinking. His gaze landed on the mirage. After watching for a while, his expression became grave. Wang Wuxian could maintain his composure in an emergency far more than the other disciples, which was why he had been given such an important task. However, he was not weak. Even though he only cultivated one Shen glyph, his skill was solid. Tianhuan had not paid great attention to the mission this time. The ruins were in Lotus Sutra Temple's territory and it was not easy to move there. Li Xian'er and the other disciples were all at important points in their cultivation and could not travel. Through different methods, Tianhuan had divined that the journey of the ruins would be dangerous this time. However, under the suggestion of Chief Elder, he still sent Wang Wuxian and a few others to sneak in. He had originally thought that Chief Elder had other considerations until Chief Elder told him directly and he realized. Chief Elder had reached a bottleneck on his comprehension of Shen glyphs, and he wanted to obtain inspiration from the other paths. The opening of the ancient ruins would attract many experts. Chief Elder only had to do a few things in order to see the fights of the disciples. He had not concealed this from Wang Wuxian and the others. The sect leader also said that if they could not win, they did not need to fight to the death. Wang Wuxian and the others were not opposed to this arrangement. The benefit to Tianhuan, if they could help Chief Elder, was clear. Chief Elder's setup was effective. After watching for a while, the sect leader's face became ugly. Zheng Liana was strong as they said. He knew long ago about Zheng Liana's strength. However, he was still surprised at how easily Zheng Liana suppressed Wang Wuxian. He unconsciously compared Zheng Liana and Li Xian'er, but he quickly found that he could not come to any specific conclusions. This caused his expression to turn uglier. According to the intelligence reports, Zheng Liana was not the strongest fighter under Zhuamo's command. All of the reports showed that Zheng Liana was ranked third among Zhuamo's various fighters. The first was Wei Sheng, the second was Ge. they were even more terrifyingly strong existences. Yet Xian Er was the most accomplished of the younger generation of Tianhuan disciples. When comparing the best genius of Tianhuan and the third-ranked fighter of Mo Cloud C, there was an inconclusive comparison. This indicated many problems already. When he thought of Kunlun's peerless sword essence just now, the sect leader felt even more worried. Tianhuan was falling behind in terms of top experts. Do not worry. The chief elders seemed to know what the sect leader thought and said, Tianhuan is on a different path from Kunlun and we are slightly similar to Mo Cloud C. An individual fights using their individual methods, a battalion fights with a battalion's methods. If we can advance a step on the Shen glyphs, our Shen equipment would grow in strength. At that time, our battalions would become unprecedentedly powerful. Chief Elder's words were filled with confidence. The sect leader felt better and his thoughts turned. He had to admit that Chief Elder was right. Before Mo Cloud C appeared, Tianhuan had been the strongest faction in forging. Tianhuan's battalions had been the best outfitted of all the factions. However, Mo Cloud C's sudden rise had caused them to surpass Tianhuan in Shen equipment. Chief Elder's gaze was clear. Mo Cloud C is extraordinary and Sung Lianer is strong. However, she has allowed me to see some ancient secrets. At most a few months, at minimum 1 or 2, new Shen glyphs will take form. Tianhuan's new Shen equipment will show their light. The sect leader said joyfully, Great. What does this Shirji have to prepare? Chief Elder glanced at the sect leader before saying, I do not want to interfere in some matters. However, as the sect leader of Tianhuan, you have to see clearly. The greatest enemy to us is not Kunlun but Mo Cloud C. The sect leader stilled. What is Tianhuan strongest in? Seal formations, forging. In the past, anyone that wanted to buy a talisman will chose Tianhuan first. But right now, even Xixian went to Mo Cloud C to order Shen equipment. Chief Elder's tones suddenly became harsh. I should not need to say more of Tianhuan's business. One more piece of Shen equipment sold is one more portion of Jingshi we make and one more friend. But right now, even I know that the best on the market is not our Tianhuan's Shen equipment. You are the sect leader, you need to see this clearly. The sect leader broke out in a cold sweat. Mo Cloud C is the biggest enemy to Tianhuan. Remember? Chief Elder shouted. The era is different. Stop your posturing as Tianhuan. Go compete with them, steal back the lost business and allies. Only then will Tianhuan prosper. Understand? The sect leader kowtowed sincerely. Yes. Mo Cloud C is the greatest enemy to Tianhuan. His last words were murderous. Chapter 799. Ambush. Zhou Mo was not in a good mood. The sword essence just now had been too great of a blow to his confidence. Kunlun was so far away from this place, yet that sword essence was able to reach this place. Even the Jinji of the Totem Colosseum were unable to block it. How terrifying it was. Zhou Mo suddenly realized that when individual strength reached a certain level, it could also change the state of the world. In reality, Zhou Mo did not place great importance on the training of experts. Mo Cloud C developed using forging. This was similar to Tianhuan's development path. There were no direct benefits in this path to develop experts, but it was beneficial for increasing their overall strength. The reason that Mo Cloud C had so many strong fighters was just because it had been slightly ahead in this crucial time of the Ling Power era switching to the Shen Power era. But as Kunlun and Tianhuan reacted, the opportunity from being early was not as large as they imagined. But even so, Mo Cloud C was still positioned well. Top experts were stronger than before, but the average strength level had also increased greatly. The difference between the two did not increase, but decreased. Top experts could affect the results of a battle but could not become strategic assets. As Shen equipment became mainstream and Shen device raiments were rare, the difference shrunk even more. Even the strongest expert could not win against an elite battalion. That situation was just destroyed right now. Such terrifying sword essence was not something the sword Xiao of this era could possess. It definitely was a peerless Shin sword left over from the ancient era. The ghost mist child said it was the immemorial sword. Zuoremo was still slightly in doubt. Even an ancient Shin device could not have such an astounding presence. Zuoremo was not blind. Wei Sheng's god-killing blood sword was also an ancient Shin sword, yet the two swords' presence was not on the same level. There was something else going on here. While he did not understand, Zuoremo perceptively realized that something important had occurred. Even if Kunlun could only use 10% of such power, it would be enough to erase a battalion. If they were stronger and could use all of that power, Zuoremo would not be surprised if they could destroy a Jia. This meant that a new kind of war had formed. Think about it, if Lin Qian sneaked into Cloud Sea Jia and then destroyed Cloud Sea Jia with a single strike, it would be a true catastrophe for Mo Cloud Sea. Zuoremo felt a chill rise from his feet. It was too terrifying. But this was not solvable. The movement of large battalions could not be concealed, but no faction would be able to stop few people from sneaking in. What do they do then? Zuoremo compartmentalized the terror he felt and his mind started to turn, thinking of a solution. His mind was nimble, cunning, and intelligent, but this time, he had no plans. When the difference in power between the two was too great, any scheme was worthless. He pulled out the ghost mist child and asked, "What method can cause the immemorial sword to have this presence?" The ghost mist child was confused. A moment later, he understood. His little face scrunched together as he thought. He said, "Most likely, they used a peerless soul to nurture the sword in order to reach this level." Little Mo Guest's mind shifted and he suddenly asked, "God-killing blood sword, have you heard of it?" Slight terror rose on the ghost mist child's face. Does Master possess this sword? Not good. The sword is inauspicious. It is the most vicious sword. Every one of the sword's masters died in violence. Master, do not be greedy about this sword's power. Zuoremo shook his head. This sword is my Xixiang's. My Xixiang is strong in mind and cannot be defeated. Do not worry. I just want to ask, how does this sword compare to the immemorial Shen sword? The worry on the ghost mist child's face did not lessen, but he said, "The god-killing blood sword is called the most vicious sword in the world. It has drank the blood of countless warriors, and is not lacking at all compared to immemorial. If I want this sword to reach the presence that now, what should I do?" Zuoremo felt as though he found a good solution. Since Kunlun has the powerful immemorial Shen sword, then we will level up the god-killing blood sword to the same level. That way, I cannot guard against you, you cannot guard against me, we will be on the same level. The ghost mist child understood what Zuoremo meant to do but shook his head. If you want to elevate the god-killing blood sword to such a level, you need the essence blood of countless warriors and not souls. However, this sword is the most vicious in history. The sword's soul is bloodthirsty and savage, primarily inauspicious. If it becomes so strong, no one will be able to control it. It will probably turn into a storm of blood. Zuoremo was silent. What the ghost mist child said was not complex. Zuoremo had seen Xixiang's god-killing blood sword. The killing essence of that sword was so strong it was unparalleled in the world. If the god-killing blood sword really became so strong, Zuoremo felt that even Xixiang would not be able to control it. There would be only one result if the weapon was stronger than the master: backlash upon the master. Zuoremo suddenly thought of an important point and asked, "Wouldn't the immemorial Shun sword also cause backlash?" The ghost mist child said without thinking, "If one is not strong enough and attempts to control it, then of course it will." "How strong? If they are as strong as me, will there be backlash?" Zuoremo asked. The ghost mist child was afraid of offending Zuoremo, but he would not dare to lie. Hesitating a while, he nodded and said, "Yes." Then he added, "If master is slightly stronger, then no." Zuoremo ignored his last sentence. Lin Qian was stronger than him, but definitely not much stronger. That meant that Lin Qian would also receive backlash. Zuoremo's mind turned. If one does not want to receive backlash, then now? The ghost mist child stilled and blurted out, "Unless it is people like his relatives who are willing to merge their soul into the sword and help him suppress it." However, this is not realistic. Using a soul to nurture the sword, the soul will be placed in great torment and will never be able to be released and reincarnated. Zuoremo was silent. He couldn't help but look at Agui next to him. Wasn't Agui's undying Shin punishment just like this? He had seen Kunlun's zeal. For those madmen, they could do something like this. However, he would not be able to do it and he would never agree to it. He finally knew what had happened at Kunlun, but even so, he did not have any solution. It was not a pleasurable matter for any person when their enemies were a group of madmen with belief. At this time, he suddenly saw two figures flash out of the corner of his eyes. Zuoremo seemed to wake up. This was not the time to think about such matters. A strong feeling of danger rose. He had an even stronger desire for the Shin device nucleus. A Shin device raiment could not change the disadvantage Mo Cloud C had in terms of strategically useful experts, but it could decrease the gap between them. In a few moments, Zuoremo made a decision. The murderousness in his eyes grew. The incomers were not from his side. Zuoremo's body flashed and he appeared without any hesitation next to one of the people. The other hadn't thought that they would be attacked just after walking out. Zuoremo had attacked without any warning, no noise. He was like a viper hidden in the shadows before suddenly exploding in a fatal attack. Layers of Sun Shin power covered his hand. A small axe of light formed. If the Sun Shin axe that Zuoremo had manifested when he had been fighting with the ghost mist child was tens of thousands of caddies heavy, then what was on his hand now was a throwing axe. The dark gold axe was the size of his palm. It was unusually thin and light. The sun glyph on the surface of the axe was fine and exquisite. The markings representing the rays of the sun almost covered the entire surface of the axe. Zuoremo's hand flickered. The little axe silently turned into a stream of light and struck the waist of the incomer. When the other managed to react and gathered their Shin power, it was too late. The Sun Shin power was too sharp. This person, caught off guard, had Shin power as thin as paper. He was unable to stop the axe entering his body. The incomer's body froze. Moments later, he gave a scream. Blinding golden light suddenly released from his body. A wisp of golden fire shot out of his body and then turned him into flames in that moment. Agui's movements were similarly brisk. Just as Zuoremo was attacking, Agui's hand already gripped the neck of the other person. With a crack, the other person died without even making a sound. The ghost mist child gaped with wide eyes. By the time he reacted, he felt a wave of cold come up from under him. Such viciousness! Killing without blinking! Zuoremo crouched on the ground to gather spoils. The corpse that Agui held was thrown in front of Zuoremo. They were people from Skanda Temple. Zuoremo's expression did not change. In just a few moments, he cleared the two of their possession. The two had only average items, except one damaged Skanda staff. It seemed slightly old and was likely an item from the ancient era. Zuoremo waited. The half section of the staff was unusually heavy and he could hear the sounds of wind and thunder. They had some wealth, Zuoremo thought. The splitting of the 9 great Dhyana sects would be difficult to stop. The present 9 great Dhyana sects would split into 2 groups. The group led by Thundersound Temple was closer to Mo Cloud C. And Skanda sect, Heartleaf Dhyana sect and others were controlled by Kunlun and Tianhuan. Therefore, Zuoremo did not need to have any care towards Skanda sect. Suddenly, Zuoremo realized that this was a wonderful battlefield. Since everyone had to come through here, then they, who got here first, had a great advantage. If they repeated what they just did, Zuoremo suddenly became excited. He asked the ghost mist child, "Can you act in here?" The ghost mist child recovered from his shock and nodded repeatedly. Yes. Zuoremo motioned. Use mist to fill this entire place. We need to make a mist formation in here. The ghost mist child became alert. This was the first battle he was fighting under his new master. He had to do well for master to have a good opinion of him. Without another word, he activated the mist eye tablet. The mist eye tablet sprouted out thick white mist. Soon, the mist filled the entire hall except in the area within 3 zhang of the 4 palace gates. Once the mist went near the palace gates, they would be pushed away. Zuoremo did not care. He pulled out the black gold seal soldier and Lil Pagoda from his ring. Lil Fire and Lil Black, who did not have any offensive capabilities, were shoved back into the ring. Things like ambushes were the most exciting. Chapter 800 Sneak attacked Tan Su, and the other two had joyful expressions. That peerless sword essence just now astounded them, and what made them even happier was that the sword essence contained that familiar Kunlun presence. Everyone knew what that meant. No matter if it was a Xixiang had achieved a supreme level, or the appearance of the Shun sword, the powerful sword essence represented great power. This was definitely a good matter for Kunlun. The trio were all children of Kunlun, the true backbone of Kunlun. They were connected to the well-being of the sect. We will definitely obtain the Shin device nucleus, Nietzsche said with a steely resolve. Unusual determination flashed through his eyes, and his usually calm expression was excited. The other two people nodded at the same time with fanatical expressions. This peerless sword essence seemed to rule over the world. Even the strongest expert was like an ant in front of such powerful sword essence. The title of the strongest in the world once again returned to Kunlun. Kunlun had always been thought of the sect strongest in battle. Yet in these past years, they were not as they once were. Even Mo Cloud C dared to fight them. This was hard for the proud Kunlun disciples to tolerate. Now that Kunlun once again demonstrated its unparalleled power, how could Tan Su and the others not be excited? Everyone be careful. Nietzsche did not let the victory go to his head. He was even more careful. He knew that if the other people were only 50% sincere in their desire to get the Shen device nucleus, now it would be 100%. The Shen device nucleus was not able to match that sword essence right now, but an extra Shen device raiment meant that the other factions would have that much more power to fight Kunlun. However, Nietzsche did not worry. The three of them were all children of Kunlun, true experts picked carefully out of numerous disciples. There were only 50 of them in all of Kunlun. If it was just one person, Nietzsche would reconsider, but with the three of them combined with their preparations and knowledge about the Totem Colosseum, Nietzsche was confident in obtaining the nucleus. Zhenling Meng played with the rain commanding banner in her hand and then suddenly said, "The rain banner is a good treasure. But if we want to activate it, it needs to be refined using Shin power." Tan Su glanced over and shook his head. "I'm not interested in such a soft thing." Nietzsche did not compete. "My sword essence leans yang and masculine, it is not suitable. Shimmy use it." Zhenling Meng did not refuse and nodded. All right. The Rain Commander banner was suited to her. Her sword essence was a completely Yin. She started to consider the Rain Commanding banner into a Shun sword. She liked the name Rain Commander. With the help of this item, her strength would go up another level. Right now, not just Shin device raiments, they would be even jealous of a Shun sword. A Shun sword did not refer to how great a sword was, but if it could tolerate Shin power or not. Compared to Ling power, Shin power was multiple times more domineering. Normal flying swords could not withstand the stress of channeling it. In reality, this situation was not just occurring at Kunlun but also other sections. Kunlun's 1,000 years of accumulation was all based on the Ling power system. They did not have many advantages with the present Shin power. They might have some wealth, but there were too many people. The wealth was only enough to create 1 or 2 Shin devices. Other people could only look on. In the last few years, several materials that were suitable for Shin power had appeared. These materials were not high in grade, but even so, their prices skyrocketed and were extremely valuable. This was also why Shin equipment was so expensive. The lagging development of Shin materials caused people to have to endure the limitations caused by the low-level weapons they wielded. Therefore, while Tan Su and Yetchin generously passed on the Rain Commanding banner, they could not help but feel slight jealousy. It was possible to forge a Shun sword using the Rain Commanding banner as the primary body. Obtaining an appropriate Shun sword was something to be admired. Looking at Zhen Mingling unable to let go of the article, Yetchin smiled. "Shimmy, you can study this after we return. Let's first complete the mission." Zhen Lingmeng's face blushed red. She was slightly embarrassed. This one has lost composure. Nie Chan smiled understandingly and then reminded with a serious expression. The path ahead is full of danger, we need to be alert and careful. The people from Mo Cloud Sea are not easy to deal with. Humph. I think the rumors exaggerate. Tan Su snorted and said proudly. It is a pity we did not encounter them now. Otherwise, I will kill them all and hang their heads on Mo Cloud Sea's transportation formations. Nie Chen smiled helplessly. Tan Su Shitty usually looked down on people, and he was too lazy to say otherwise. But Zhenling Meng became alert and her stray thoughts disappeared. Nie Chen nodded inside and said, let's go. After the rain hall is the gates of the 4 palaces. After going through the 4 palaces, we will be able to find the Shen device nucleus. That isn't interesting. Tan's eyes flashed viciously. How about we set up an ambush in front of the 4 palace gates and take the wind of Mo Cloud Sea's sails? Wouldn't that be more enjoyable? Nie Chen's mind moved. He felt that Tan's idea was plausible. With their strength, if they wanted to ambush someone, there would be pitifully few that would be able to dodge. Would there be people faster than us? Zhenling Meng suddenly asked. Nie Chen and Tan Su stilled. The murderousness on Tan's face disappeared, and he became thoughtful. He was proud but not stupid. Most likely not. Nie Chen said seriously. We have a good grasp on the situation, and we have not encountered any strong enemies. We had an open path. It probably wouldn't be easy for people to be faster than us. However, we have to be alert. If the enemy does this, it will not be good if we fall for it. The 3 exchanged looks and all had grave expressions. Let's go, be careful. Nie Chen warned again. Zhuamo's ambush plan was very successful. They had successively killed a few people without any real effort. These people had never thought they would be ambushed. Zhuamo and the others were fast and vicious in their attacks. However, these people were average in strength and didn't have anything good on them. This disappointed Zhuamo slightly. However, thinking from a different angle, they were all his enemies. With each death, his hopes of getting the Shen device nucleus would grow. He immediately felt better. Suddenly, the ghost mist child warned. 3 incoming. After a few rounds, everyone worked together well and did not need to call to each other as Ghost Mist Child told the positions of the 3 to Zhuamo and the others. 3 people. Due to the positions, the ones that attacked were Zhuamo, 10th grade and Silly Bird. Little Mo Guess Little Axe faded into the mist and silently sliced to one of the people. 10th grade's Little Moon Crescent was tiny to begin with. It was impossible to perceive it within the mist. Possibly due to being with Zhuamo for such a long time, even the battle-hungry 10th grade became devious and cunning. This attack came without any sound. In comparison, the proud Silly Bird naturally disdained Zhuamo's devious moves. She stood proudly, and her bird beads suddenly pecked. The sharp bird beak brushed against the air and caused a spray of sparks. The tip of the bead was like boiling iron. The ghost mist child who was paying attention to the entire situation saw Silly Bird's peck. He felt sympathy and the mist around him couldn't help but shake. Bam! Zhuamo's sneak attack was stopped. 10th grade's Little Moon Crescent was thrown back with a chiming sound. Silly Bird's peck was the most effective. The domineering and sharp power penetrated the others' Shen power defenses. Even the Shen equipment was not effective and a little hole was left behind. None of the 3 had succeeded. Zhuamo immediately understood they met a hard opponent. He was experienced in battle and knew that at this time, he could not give the enemy any time to think. He unhesitatingly moved forward, the Sun Shen axe in his hand howling as he sung with a ferocious presence. Zhuamo silently released 3 Sun Shen thorns. Ding! The sound of the collision that shook the entire field. The mist in the surroundings was split apart and the 2 stared at each other. Nie Chen's expression changed. The other's axe swing just now was extremely heavy. His entire right arm was trembling right now, so sore he could not raise it. Yet what caused him to change expression were the 3 Sun Shen thorns hiding towards him. The dark gold sun shun thorns flashed with sharp cold light that iced people's hearts. He had blocked the other's axe just now, and his shun power was surging. With just the shun equipment, he definitely could not stop these 3 sun shun thorns. Under the threat of great danger, Nie Chen's mind was unusually clear. Without thinking, the fingers on his left hand flickered out. 7 blinding sword energies suddenly shot out of his left hand. The sword energies howled as they tore the air. Finger sword wave. This sword scripture was one of the sword scriptures he had been most familiar with in the past. However, it was not among the ones that the elders had modified. After cultivating it for so long, it almost became instinct to rely on it. As a present child of Kunlun, Nie Chen's understanding of sword essence now was nothing like what it was when he had been uneducated. His used Shin power to cast Finger Sword Wave, but did not feel any rawness but unprecedentedly free. In the past, his skill with this sword scripture had been great and he had been able to control it to a fine degree. Now, it seemed as though that paper-thin window had been broken and he seemed to comprehend. The most dangerous and terrible times, people's potential was the easiest to uncover. Nie Chen was in an indescribable state. These 7 swords could be said to be so skilled it reached the summit. They cross, and like rain, they hit the 3 sun shun thrones from different angles. None of them missed. Ding ding ding. With a wave of clean and clear explosions, the 3 sun thorns were deflected and brushed past Nie Chen's face dangerously as though they had been lightly flicked away by an invisible hand. The sun shun thorns touched Nie Chen's face, and that intimidating hot presence caused his heart to shudder. He had missed. Zuemo was surprised. The sneak attack that he had thought could not fail had actually missed. This was an expert. Zuemo's eyes lit up. Chapter 801. The little 10th grade sneak attack was stopped, and the little 10th grade immediately howled as he charged toward Jinling Meng. Killing energy swirled in the wind, the mist rippling. 10th grade was like a tiny black shadow that flickered in and out of view through the mist. The little crescents were like thousands of bolts of lightning. They rained down on Jinling Meng from all directions. Sword essence filled the air. Killing energy boiled. The sword energies were black bolts of lightning. Sword essence spread. An invisible force wrapped around Jinling Meng like thousands of spiderwebs. Jinling Meng jumped in fright at being suddenly attacked. If she didn't have a treasure of the sect protecting her, she would have been injured. The Bagua heart protection mirror that her master had given her now had a crack on the border. Jinling Meng was both shocked and angry. She was protected by the elders and Shixiang in the sect. Anyone that saw her would yield to her. When had she lost face like this? The talisman that master had given her had followed her for many years. She treasured it. It was now damaged. She was strong to begin with. Angered, she used her killing move without any hesitation. A cold sword energy cut across the mist like lightning to head towards the sword net made from 10th grade's crescent blade. Ding! A clear sound rang out of the entire battlefield. She felt a vicious power pass through the flying sword. Jinling Meng felt the energies inside her roil and instinctively took 2 steps back. 10th grade's little body was thrown into the air. Such strong sword essence. Jinling Meng was alarmed. It was the first time she encountered such a vicious sword essence. Also, the other's skill on sword essence matched her. Was this Wei Xing? This thought flashed through Jinling Meng's mind. She only knew of one person from Mo Cloud Sea that had such skill in sword essence, Wei Xing. The rumors said that Wei Xing wielded a blood-red sword. His sword essence was vicious and bloodthirsty. She felt that she had guessed correctly. However, her mind quickly calmed down. While the other had not put all of his power into that attack, she had also been reserved in her response. While she was surprised by the viciousness of the other's sword essence, she would not be surprised if it was Wei Xing. As the strongest fighter of Mo Cloud Sea, Wei Xing was no longer that unknown youth from the past, but an unorthodox top expert that was pointing a sword at the Holy Land for the sword Xiao. Even the Kunlun geniuses with their eyes on the top of their heads put away their pride when they faced Wei Xing. Jinling Meng quickly calmed down. She swung her sword. In a blink, 12 sword essences formed a 12-layer barrier in front of her. Knowing that the enemy could possibly be Wei Xing, she wisely chose to go on the defensive. Wei Xing's reputation could be seen from this. The 12 sword energies crossed. The sword essence that they gave off made them form a secure article. Anything that came near would be torn into pieces by countless sword energies. Even the mist was not an exception. All the mist within 10 zhang disappeared. The ghost mist child snorted and was displeased inside. However, he did not attack. It had been a long time since he had participated in the world, but he had been a friendly and understanding henchman. He knew that he was the new person and the right thing to do was to get on good terms with the other brothers. 10th grade had a proud personality. It would not be good if he interfered. As expected, a furious howl came from the sky. Vicious and savage killing essence roared and echoed like lightning. Being thrown into the sky to the proud 10th grade was undoubtedly an embarrassment. He felt as though there was a burning flame inside. His black robes moved despite the lack of wind. His hands were raised high above his head. The crescent blade seemed to be attracted and flew into his raised hands. A tinge of dark red suddenly came onto the crescent blade. Like an incomplete moon drinking blood. 10th grade's hair stood on end. His proud and cold little face was murderous. From the moment he was born, his greatest wish was to become the strongest Ling beast and not fail the name of 10th grade. Yet after seeing Wei Xing's strength, Zhuo Mo's dominance, Agui's eeriness, Silly Bird's brutality, Zhong Ru's unfathomableness, and Luo Li's intangibility, this guy's eyes looked even higher. This little body was full of ambition. He was 10th grade. He was born to be at the top. How could he be mediocre? The mist below was dissipated by Zhenming Ling's sword essence. Her field of view broadened and the layers of sword energy flashed with beautiful light. 10th grade threw down a disdainful look. The fighting spirit inside burned and roiled. 10th grade showed his innate desire to fight. Face 10th grade's ultimate move. 10th grade's eyes suddenly burning, his power rippling. His still proud face carried disdain that came from his bones. His arms suddenly pressed down. The dark red crescent suddenly shot down. Behind the crescent, the bloody afterimages were like silk. Countless vicious shadows flashed. They constantly changed, moving and turning, forming and disappearing. A peerlessly vicious presence came with an ear-piercing howl like the wails of thousands of ghosts that caused people's minds to shake. The blood color of the crescent blade became even deeper and the bloody shadows behind were even redder. Hundreds sacrificial soul-killing sword. There was no madness on 10th grade's little face. He was still as cold and proud as usual. He did not know that his expression right now was unconsciously mimicking his idol, Wei Xing Darren. This sword scripture that Wei Xing had picked for him was matched to his taste. He liked to fight, and this sword scripture was full of killing intent. He was Teacher Wei's fan. Whatever Teacher Wei said was right. From the start, he found that it was unusually enjoyable to cultivate this sword scripture. But he quickly found a new target. In his eyes, Teacher Wei was the strongest sword xiao in the world. Every time 10th grade went close to the god-killing blood sword, his blood would uncontrollably boil, and he would feel the thirst for blood. However, Teacher Wei would seem unaffected. Such a vicious god-killing blood sword was docile in his hands. Teacher Wei's heart was stronger than the strongest steel. He revered Teacher Wei. Correspondingly, his demands of himself increased. Even the god-killing blood sword could not shake Teacher Wei's mind. Then how could he let the measly 100 sacrificial soul-killing sword shake his mind? He started to copy Teacher Wei and tried to keep his mind unaffected by the sword essence. So this presence scene appeared. The crescent sword essence crossed the air, the sharp sword essence like a wild beast out of the cage. However, 10th grade's face was as cold and proud as usual. Yet the sword essence was so strong it reached an unprecedented level. They had almost fallen for a trap. Tan Su was both shocked and angry. He had a habit when he cultivated that no one knew of. He would always split a part of his mind to prepare for a battle no matter what the time was. This was because the first time that he had gone a mission, he had almost died from carelessness. From then on, he had persisted in this cultivation habit. Today, this habit saved his life again. A small hole appeared on his Shin equipment. The Shin power that protected his body had all been dissipated by the attack. If it wasn't for the Shin equipment, his body would have a big bloody hole right now. Escaping the danger, Tan Su immediately became enraged, especially when he saw the one that had attacked him was a Ling beast. Tan Su became furious. Such a daring bastard. With a crimson-red flying sword in his hand, he flew towards Silly Bird like a flame. Hearing the word bastard, the feathers on Silly Bird's forehead suddenly exploded and stood on end. Her usually proud and imperious eyes immediately filled with blood and became vicious and savage. When had Silly Bird ever been cursed like this? Facing the flame, she pecked again. This peck was unlike the one before. There seemed to be countless sparks that exploded at the tip of the beak. Every spark was the size of a grain of sand. These sparks did not fly in all directions but formed a spiraling pattern around the bird beat. A hint of imperceptible smugness flashed through Tanzu's eyes. The fire that he had thrown out appeared normal but was dangerous. It was not fire, but something that appeared like fire made from pure sword essence. His attack was extremely deceptive and many had fallen to this. When he saw Silly Bird facing his sword essence, flame and pecked, Tan Su couldn't help but show some smugness in his eyes at the success of his plan. As expected, in the moment they came into contact, that thread of fire suddenly exploded. Vroom. Countless sword essences exploded and swallowed up Silly Bird. This seemingly normal fire contained 3,060 sword energies that were extremely fine. When they were connected by the sword essence, they formed a flame. The sight of 3,060 sword energies exploding at once was spectacular. The burning light caused people to close their eyes. The mist within dozens of zhang was swept away. A hair-raising rattle of the sounds of collision came from the burning ball of light. Tanzu's smugness was on display as he snorted, "Just a feathered bastard dares to attack ye, it doesn't want to live. Ye will let you taste what it means to be a plucked phoenix." These 3,600 sword energies contained countless variations. Once an enemy was trapped inside, they never managed to come out. It was an ultimate killing move. Sword flame. Even when he fought against other Xixiang on Kunlun, whenever he used this killing move, all the Xixiang would avoid this and no one would ever take on this move head-on. Who was so confident they would escape unscathed from 3,600 sword energies? Wasn't it easy to use a killing move that even the other children of Kunlun feared to deal with a feathered bastard? Tan Su looked around warily. At this time, he did not want someone else to sneak an attack on him. What he didn't know was that the Black Gold Seal Soldier and Sunshine within the mist were looking with pity at him. He's dead. The Black Gold Seal Soldier shook his head and sighed. Oh. Sunshine shook his head. That sunny face was full of pity. It is not so easy for one who has offended Big Sister Bird to die. Big Sister Bird was angry. The consequences were horrifying. The sword energies dissipated and revealed a proud and magnificent bird. Her feathers were slightly ruffled. Her narrowed eyes were not as angry as before, but they could easily cause people to feel that her anger had reached a peak. There was a short, suffocating calm like the one before a storm. Chapter 802, Zhuamo's heart seeing the sun thorns miss. Zhuamo was shocked but reacted quickly. He advanced instead of retreating and swung the Sunshin axe in his hand at the enemy. His speed was lightning fast. Niechen just saw a blur and golden energies suddenly flashed in front of him. At this time, Niechen was in a wondrous state, and his reaction was fast. His right hand beckoned and the flying sword pointed at Zhuamo's waist like a snake. This move bet on the fact the other would have to save himself. The Sunshin axe's sharp edge was almost at his face, but Niechen's face was calm and his crystal-like eyes did not flicker at all. It was a long time since Zhuamo had encountered such a troublesome opponent. The other's move was vicious. If he cut the other in half, then the other's sword energy would slice through his waist. He immediately blocked with the Shun axe in his right hand. An enormous sound, and then the sparks flew. Zhuo Mo and Niechen both retreated at the same time. Niechen finally showed shock. The other's strength was so strong it almost surpassed his imagination. But what shocked us even more was that he guessed the other's identity. I had not expected to encounter the master of Mo Cloud Sea here. Niechen stared at Zhuo Mo and said slowly. His mind was in disarray. He had never thought that he would have an opportunity to fight against Zhuo Mo. If it wasn't for the other's unique Sun Shen power, Niechen would definitely never have guessed it. Mo Cloud Sea's territories were not large, but no one dared to underestimate their power. Zhuo Mo was presently of high status. Niechen found it hard to believe that he would explore a ruin personally. Yet what shocked him even more was Zhuo Mo's strength. It had long not been a secret that Zhuo Mo cultivated Sun Shen power. Yet when people listed the many experts of Mo Cloud Sea, they would, for some reason, exclude Zhuo Mo. In everyone's view, how could Zhuo Mo, now the master of Mo Cloud Sea, fight on the front lines like in the past? When people judged Zhuo Mo, it was usually along the lines of a natural leader, the brain of Mo Cloud Sea. His talent in seal scripts and Mo matrices shocked the world. He had caused Mo Cloud Sea to become a rival for Tianhuan in seal formations and talismans. His unique inscription art could allow Xiaoxia to possess the great power of Mo matrices. His bloodline awakening technique caused countless Mo experts to be created under his command. Mo physiques were common in the present Mo Cloud Sea. He had forged the first pseudo-Shin weapon and created the concept of Shin device raiments, a unique Shin device that had never appeared before. Just as everyone had been trying to forge Shin device raiments, he forged the first battle general Shin device raiment. He was a person had to grasp. He was filled with the greediness and worldliness of the common folk. Many times, people would feel that he was just a minor character. Yet he possessed astounding charisma and countless geniuses loyally followed him. Under so many halos, his individual strength was not so eye-catching. But, having just experienced it personally, Niechen was astounded. He suddenly thought of a person that was so similar to Zhuo Mo eldest Shixiang, Lin Qian. No, now present sect leader Lin Qian. Lin Qian, who also possessed talent in all fields, Lin Qian, who is also individual strong, was so similar to Zhuo Mo. Niechen unconsciously shook his head. How could this guy compare to the talented eldest Shixiang? He focused and threw out the stray thoughts. The shock disappeared. His mind returned to calmness. His eyes suddenly lit up. He suddenly realized that this was a chance from the heavens. In front of him was the master of Mo Cloud Sea. If he killed Zhuo Mo Cloud Sea would end up a headless snake. For Kunlun, this meant that they would be relieved of a great worry. His gaze became hot. Strong belief filled his heart. His flying sword seemed to feel his thoughts and secretly flew back into his hand. He gripped the flying sword and shouted inside Kunlun. Zhuo Mo was slightly surprised. The guy in front of him suddenly seemed to be burning, all of his power being released. He was burning without any consideration for the consequences. In a blink, Zhuo Mo understood the other's intentions. He couldn't help but feel some respect. Among all the opponents that he had experienced, Kunlun was the most troublesome and the strongest. These fanatics were a group of madmen. Zhuo Mo's expression was solemn, his killing intent undisguised. He thought of the sect leader, thought of the Shirshu. Pain spread through his heart and his murderousness increased. Everything about the Zhuo family past seemed to be scenes he saw through a veil of mist. He always lacked an emotional connection to them. Except for Agui. Yet to him, the years at Wukong Sword Sect had been real and he had truly lived them. The care that the sect leader and the Shirshu had given him flashed in front of his eyes. Those lively figures, those seemingly stern but concerned scolds would never appear again. Yes, Kunlun was worthy of respect. But so what? When they caused the deaths of the sect leaders and the others, the grudge had been set. No matter if it was him, eldest Shixiang or Luo Li, there was only one path with Kunlun, fight to the death. Destroying Kunlun was his fate. The killing intent in Zhuomo's body had never been so strong. He finally understood why he never liked Kunlun, even without the incident of Wukong sword sect. Because this Kunlun that was so worthy of respect, they only had Kunlun on their minds. Even in the past, as the head of the Xiozha, Kunlun only thought of Kunlun. Everything else in their eyes were ants. They would be sacrificed and wounded. Their so-called Kunlun was only that little group of core Kunlun disciples on Kunlun Mountain. For Kunlun, they could sacrifice their familial feelings, they could sacrifice everything. They were a group of madmen. This was a group of madmen, prejudiced madmen that had sank into their glory. Suddenly, Zhuo felt that this Kunlun was not worthy of being feared. His gaze suddenly became cold. The fury just now disappeared. An enormous dragon claw appeared in his hand. Anti-dragon claw. The infamous Sky Missouri weapon that had dominated the world was being held in Zhuomo's hand and pointed at Niechin. A peerlessly vicious presence slammed in all directions. The anti-dragon claw that had been revitalized, once again recovering the aura of its past and showed its glorious appearance. It did not have the vast presence of the Shin device raiments, yet the unique, vicious, and cruel presence of the anti-dragon claw still made it an astounding weapon. Zhuo had thought about reforging the anti-dragon claw, but he found that the energies of the anti-dragon claw were melded together and the difficulty of a reforge would be great. The anti-dragon claw was still one of the strongest weapons outside of Shindeve's. Zhuo did not choose the green pull string but the anti-dragon claw because only it suited the killing intent he felt now. Niechin did not retreat, his gaze burning and mad. The rebellious anti-dragon claw was unusually obedient in Zhuomo's hands. The present Zhuo was far from the Zhuo of the past. His Shin power rippling, Zhuo held the leg bone of the anti-dragon claw. His body suddenly gave off great golden light. He was like the sun, unable to be looked at directly. For the first time in several years, Zhuo burned his Shun power without any reservation. No one knew how strong his Shun power was now. People only saw him going to Golden Crow Camp and managing the affairs of Mo Cloud Sea. No one knew that his daily cultivation had never stopped. His right hand could constantly provide Shun power to him. The growth of his Shun power was almost unimaginable. He refined his Shun technique again and again. He studied the various skills recorded on the sun gold leaf. He knew how his present accomplishments had come about. He treasured this. He knew that he was not a genius, and if he wanted to get in front of others, he could only work harder than others. No one knew that the sweat and effort he put in surpassed normal people. Under that laughing and cursing face, he had powerful heart. Big Sister Bird was very angry. The consequences would be serious. For the little ones, this was an absolute rule. While Big Sister Bird seemed to be sleeping every day as though this would continue to the end of time, that undefeatable dominance still showed from her great sleeping posture. As the big sister of the little ones, Big Sister Bird was magnificent. While the other little ones were trying to gain favor with Zhuo, Silly Bird had seen little Mo guess nouveau riche behavior numerous times. One needed qualifications to be proud. But what made the little ones really respect her was Silly Bird's conduct. Domineering, direct, Big Sister Bird never talked reason, only with strength. Even a person as proud as 10th grade would docilely go up and fawn in front of Big Sister Bird. But right now, Big Sister Bird's authority had been challenged. A feathered bastard. Killing intent formed a storm in Silly Bird's narrowed eyes. Raising her head, Silly Bird thought back. How many years had it been since she had encountered such an idiot? Silly Bird focused on her reminiscing and didn't even look at the gaping Tan Su. Time was really a butcher's knife. In the past, I was still at a pure and tender age. Feathered bastard. Silly Bird's eyes twitched. Her reminiscing was interrupted by the words. Almost tangible killing energy shrouded her body like mist. For some reason, Tan Su suddenly had a feeling that the other's figure seemed to grow much bigger and look down on him. Shrouded in the shadows, the face could not be seen. Only a pair of bloody red eyes lit up in the dark. An enormous pressure rushed at him and he felt his breathing stop. Unconsciously, cold sweat soaked his back. Blinking, he forcefully shook his head and the illusion in front of him disappeared. As expected, it was an illusion. For some reason, he sighed in relief. He couldn't help but mock himself. It seemed that he was too nervous. Was it because it was the first time he encountered such a powerful Ling beast? Then he felt ashamed for his timidity. He actually felt afraid of a feathered bastard. It was laughable. So laughable. What he did not notice was that spiraling flame mark on Sillybird's beak had not disappeared. Chapter 803, Solitary Dance of the Great Dark Wheel Phoenix. Sillybird's wings spread wide, her figure disappearing. In the next moment, she appeared in front of Tan Su. So fast. Tan Su's pupils contracted, the air in front of him twisting as a red shadow charged towards him with a thunderous presence. The bird beak suddenly released a dot of fire. A strong feeling of danger suddenly rose. Tan Su's expression changed slightly. Without any hesitation, the flying sword in his hand shot out a ball of fire. Like lightning, it headed towards that incoming foreboding flame. Unlike before, the sword flame right now was dark red. Sword flame death. The tip of the flying sword seemed to be ignited. A streak of flame headed for Sillybird's beak. The two dots of fire collided in the air. The dark red flame suddenly exploded. 120 sword energies instantly exploded. The E-sword flame death was the upgraded version of the sword flame. It compressed 3,600 sword energies into 120. Each sword flame death energy was made from 30 sword energies. Every sword energy of the sword flame death was deadly. After being compressed, the sword energies of the sword flame death were a dark red and rippled with sword essence. But, feathered bastard! Tan Su roared with laughter. This killing move was astounding in power, and also astoundingly difficult. With his present strength, he was not able to successfully complete sword flame death every time. The joy in his heart at being able to successfully execute it at such a critical moment could be imagined. Looking at the dark red sword essences exploding on Sillybird's beak, he knew he won. No one was able to stop this move. Feeling reassured, Tan Su looked on with anticipation. 120 sword energies of the sword death flame would tear apart this horrid feathered bastard. Everything was finished. Suddenly he saw a swirling pattern suddenly light up on Sillybird's beak. His heart couldn't help but jump. Wait, boom. The flame mark exploded and turned into a pillar of fire that headed straight towards him. The blinding fire shot into the air. All of the dark red sword essences were immediately swallowed by the erupting flame. Tan Su's mind was blank. All he could see were red flames that were twisting and turning. Before he could react, he was swallowed by the spiraling tower of flame. Damn it! Tan Su shook. He was trapped in a world of fire. If he didn't have Shin power protecting him, he would have been burnt to ash long ago. However, even with the support of Shin power, he was not safe. His Shin power was being expended at an astounding rate. This kind of red flame was unusually hot. Even through the barrier of Shin power, he could feel the astounding heat. A thread of fire rose. What kind of flame was this? How could it consume his sword flame death's sword energies? That was impossible. His mind was a complete mess, but he knew that this was not the time to consider this. He had to first flee for his life. Tan Su's urge to fight disappeared. There was only one thought in his mind. Flee, flee as fast as possible. Was this feathered bastard an ancient beast? The flame that had erupted without warning was something that even the sword energies of the sword flame death could not avoid. What was this bird? The ghost Miss Child's originally snowy white face paled even more as his little heart shook. He had seen how Sillybird had spat out a wave of angry red flames that had consumed the other's sword essence and body. As an ancient warrior, the ghost Miss Child had seen people spit out flames countless times before. So why was he so shocked? The ghost Miss Child was knowledgeable. This completely red flame looked ordinary, but it had great origins. Phoenix flame. He had guessed before that silly bird was a phoenix, and now he was even more sure. The phoenix flame was unlike any other flame. Its attributes were unique. Even in the ancient era, the phoenix flame was something that would cause people to pale upon hearing the name. More importantly, this was his natural enemy. So scary. He was actually on the same side as his bane. Thinking about his future days, the ghost mist child suddenly felt that life was not as good as he imagined. Silly bird detected that Tan Su, trapped in the flame, wanted to escape. Her magnificent eyes became half-lidded as her spread wings lightly flapped. If other people were watching as bystanders, they would feel that the flapping of the wings was nonchalant and careless. Yet the ghost mist child who had been paying attention all this time watched closely. Rhythm. Silly bird's wings were flapping at an indescribably unique rhythm. This was definitely some powerful Shen methodology. When it affected his own situation, the ghost mist child watched closely. Silly bird seemed to just have flapped her wings a few times, but in reality, her feet had imperceptibly moved position a few times. When people reached this level, any seemingly normal movement would contain mysteries. The ghost mist child thought hard to search his distant memories. He seemed to think of something. The flames were like a cage. No matter how Tan Su charged and fought, he could not break out of the flames. An invisible field of force spread as Silly Bird flapped her wings and moved her feet. Tan's sweat dripped from his head as he panicked. Red flames were all around him. He seemed to be situated in an endless sea of fire. No matter which direction he charged in, the flames seemed to be extend without end. This was strange. There was something going on. He knew that he was definitely in the enemy's trap. That ball of flame had definitely been a trap. No matter how he channeled Shen power, his sword scriptures would enter into the flames and disappear. His Shen power was being used up at an astounding rate. If this continued, he would soon be unable to hold up. Without the protection of Shen power, the flames would burn him to ashes. Was he going to die today? Strangely, this thought suddenly flashed through his mind. He couldn't help but still. Silly Bird with her half-lidded eyes moved in small steps like that of an old lady out on an after-meal stroll. She would occasionally wave her wings a few times nonchalantly. The bright red flames twisted and moved like a monster. Anyone who watched it felt fear. The black gold seal soldier swallowed and said hoarsely, "Is this the solitary dance of the great dark wheel phoenix?" He knew that if he was within this ball of flame, he would have been melted into liquid. He really could not offend Big Sister Bird. The clever black gold seal soldier wondered if he should give up more food as tribute to gain favor with Big Sister Bird. Sunshine sighed and said sympathetically, "So pitiful." The phoenix flame was just a little more than a zhang in diameter, yet no matter how Tan Su fought, he could not escape. Too scary. With the anti-dragon claw in his hand, the killing intent inside Zhuo exploded as though the flames were fanned by wind. Zhuo's eyes flashed coldly. Gripping the anti-dragon claw with one hand, he leapt into the air and swung downwards at Niechen as though he was holding a large axe. A suddenly layer of golden light appeared on the anti-dragon claw, and the enormous axe of light formed from the tips of the anti-dragon claw. In a blink, the Sun Shin axe turned from a one-handed axe into a two-handed axe. The axe was thousands of caddies heavy. Everyone heard the piercing howl. The anti-dragon claw was a vicious item to start with, and after being fed with Shen power, it was peerless in its viciousness. The wind it created as it cut through the air was like the howling of 10,000 ghosts. Even the sky started to darken. The ghost mist in the surroundings melted like snow in hot water. Shen power and killing intent mixed inside. Zhuo threw all of his strength behind this blow. Nie Chen's expression changed, but then he recovered his calm. This blow was the perfect melding of dominance and killing intent. The world changed. It was just one axe, but it seemed to take over the entire sky. Suddenly, Nie Chen seemed to see a mountainous and ancient hero towering over the world. Under this axe, all shook. It was the first time he felt he was as minuscule and insignificant as an ant. But he was a mentally strong person. His mind shook but then recovered. In front of such a peerless blow, Nye Chan's pride was stimulated. The flying sword in his hand suddenly lit up with dazzling light. An astounding amount of Shen power was channeled in. The flying sword was unable to tolerate it and started to melt on the surface. The seal scriptures were being damaged, but he did not seem to mind it. His expression was solemn as he looked at the astounding blow. The flying sword quickly turned into liquid metal, but, for the moment, it still maintained the shape of a flying sword. Blinding light quickly dimmed. Nye Chen gripped the long rod of liquefying metal. Nye Chen's eyes were wide in anger as he shouted, "For Kunlun!" The liquid metal in his hand hummed and shook. Like a bolt of lightning, it shot out upwards. Hearing the words, Kunlun, the anger in Zhuo Mo's heart suddenly erupted. Unprecedented killing intent and anger immediately swallowed him like an erupting volcano. Every fiber of muscle was shaking, every hair standing on end. Zhuo Mo felt as though there was a raging fire inside his body. Those scenes that he would never see again appeared in fragments through his mind. Wukong Mountain, sect leader, Shishu, Shidi, Shimi? Zhuo Mo felt as though there was a stone on his heart. In the end, this kind of discomfort reached a threshold. All of the anger and killing intent rushed through the threshold and erupted. "Kun your mom?" A furious bellow thundered out. He did not notice that tears were streaming off his face. The berserk Zhuo Mo was like a god. "Not good!" the ghost mist child exclaimed as he paled. Blinding lights suddenly lit up in the sky. The energies were like rain droplets that hit Zhuo Mo's body. The Totem Colosseum's Jinji were activated. The ghost mist child paled and went to leap towards Zhuo Mo in the sky with the intentions of blocking the Jinji for Zhuo Mo. Darren actually was strong enough to activate the Jinji of the Totem Colosseum. The stunned ghost mist child's pupils suddenly contracted and his body froze where he stood. The energies hit Zhuo Mo's body, but Zhuo Mo did not seem to feel it. The light coming off his body suddenly grew and formed a ball of light multiple times bigger than Zhuo Mo. How was it possible? The ghost mist child gaped, his mind blank. More lights appeared in the sky as though stars were being ignited. The light energies rained down on Zhuo Mo in the sky from all directions. The berserk Zhuo Mo did not feel it. He glared, his face twisted, every muscle tensed. An enormous ball of light covered him. Lightning flashed, fire burned, and ice cut within the ball of light. In the ball of light, the anti-dragon claw was so excited it shook. In the sky, there was only this figure. In everyone's eyes, there was only this shadow. The shuddering howls of the anti-dragon claw could be heard through the entire battlefield. With the terrifying and vast power of the enormous ball of light, Zhuo Mo rushed down at an astounding speed. Crashing down, the trembling power spread, and the ground of the entire Totem Colosseum uncontrollably vibrated. Like an enraged ancient beast, Zhuo Mo was like a god descending to earth with a vicious and domineering presence conquering all around. The axe swung down. Chapter 804. Victory. Nye Chen was stunned dumb by the terrifying figure in his sight. Suddenly, he understood why eldest Xixiang Lin Qian had always said that Mo Cloud Sea would become their greatest enemy. Everyone in Kunlun had disagreed. Everyone had not said anything, and they had simply dismissed the words. Based on what? With what could Mo Cloud Sea rival Kunlun? How could that poor and rural sect challenge they who were geniuses? Only today, when he saw that figure which was like a god in the sky and that ball of light that contained astounding power, did he suddenly understand. Mo Cloud Sea would definitely become a great enemy of Kunlun. This vicious figure would become the nightmare of Kunlun. He had never heard of such an attack with such presence. He had never seen such a terrifying Xiuzhe. Even the strongest disciples in the sect would not give him such a great impact. It was not just strength, but that presence that was completely different from them. Zhuo Mo was like an inhuman monster. On him, all conventions were defied. Such a terrifying person. The air around Nye Chen was turbulent. The flow of strong currents of air caused everything he saw to be twisted. He had an understanding that under this blow, he would be reduced to dust. His expression became calm and grave on his upraised face. Through his twisted vision, he saw that vicious dominance. In this moment, countless thoughts spun through his mind. The sect did not place enough attention on Mo Cloud C. Mo was the strongest of Mo Cloud C. To destroy Mo Cloud C, they had to first kill Mo. It was a pity, there was no time. He sighed inside. Through his twisted vision, he still could clearly see that the attack he had channeled all of his power into powerlessly smash onto the other's axe energy. It didn't even cause a ripple as though it had encountered an unshakable mountain. The destructive golden axe energy immediately took over his entire field of view. He was unable to communicate what had happened here back to the sect. It really was regretful. Kunlun. Nietzsche sighed out the two words. Before he finished, he was drowned by the enormous wave of axe energy. The light dissipated. Mo panted. His entire body was soaked by sweat as though he had just climbed out of a river. Sweat streamed off his body like little streams. He motionlessly maintained his extended swinging posture. His bellowing panting could be heard everywhere. In front of him, an enormous gully 5 li wide started from under his feet and reached into the distance. A rough estimate would be at least 50 li. The scene was startling to see, as though an enormous wound had been torn open on the ground. The gully was so deep the bottom could not be seen. The two sides of the gully flashed with the light as it reflected off the glass-like surface, and many places were still giving off smoke. Everyone was stunned by this blow. The ghost Mischild's mouth was wide open, but he wasn't able to make a sound. This was the Totem Colosseum. When was the last time the Totem Colosseum had been damaged? His mind was completely blank and he couldn't remember anything. However, he knew that it had been many years since he had seen it. A long time later he recovered from his daze. Suddenly, he realized that this young master of his was definitely something. Mo's astounding blow attracted everyone's attention, even 10th grade and Zhenling Meng in the middle of their fight. When they saw Mo's terrifying presence like that of a god, 10th grade and Zhenling Meng unconsciously stopped fighting. 10th grade felt his blood heat up as he watched. That dominance, that ferocity, that unstoppable presence, wasn't that what he had been pursuing? That was a fight. That was a truly strong person. 10th grade's morale suddenly increased, his fighting spirit rising. The domineering and unstoppable figure was deeply imprinted in his mind. 10th grade. Only that domineering presence was suitable for the name 10th grade. 10th grade suddenly howled, his Shun power rippling as his 100 sacrificial soul-killing sword came out again. Stimulated, 10th grade became even more mad and excited. The power of the 100 sacrificial soul-killing sword suddenly grew. Zhenling Meng's mind was thrown into disarray by the scene that she had just seen, especially when she saw that Wuxia and Xianxia's last attack was ineffective against the other's vicious axe energy. Wuxia and Xianxia died where he was standing, and the blood drained completely from her face. That figure like that of a god continued to appear in her mind. She felt her heart was dead. The other was so strong it surpassed the limits of humans. With victory decided in that battle, the deadlock between the two sides was immediately changed. 10th grade did not have any thoughts of showing mercy to females. He was vicious, one move coming faster than the last. Once a vicious sword scripture like the 100 sacrificial soul-killing sword gained the upper hand, the enemy would feel that the pressure was slowly suffocating them. In an excited battle frenzy, 10th grade felt that something in his mind broke and an unprecedented feeling of pleasure rose. His mind turned, and 10th grade used his killing move again. 100 sacrificial soul-killing sword. The dark red howled as it flew toward Zhenling Meng, whose mind was not focused. The bloody figure that was as light as silk disappeared, and shadows appeared and disappeared on the dark red surface of the crescent. With the appearance of every shadow, the killing energy of the crescent would increase. 7 shadows. The killing energy of the crescent had reached an astounding level. Zhen Ling Meng's sword energies would crumble when they touched the crescent. A spray of blood into the air. Zhen Ling Meng lost all signs of life. When Zhen Ling Meng fell to the ground, Silly Bird slowly withdrew the phoenix flame. Where the phoenix flame had been, there was nothing, not even a speck of dust. Silly Bird walked her bird walk with her head high and looking to the side as though nothing had happened. In the sword guard hall, there were countless jade swords hanging. Each jade sword was about the width of a hand, had the name of a disciple written on it. The hilt of the swords were tied with red rope to the beams of the hall. There were countless jade swords hanging in the hall. Suddenly, pop pop pop, 3 jade swords shattered without warning. The disciple standing guard in the hall changed expression. This meant that there were 3 Kunlun disciples who had been killed. He hurriedly picked up the fragments. When he saw the 3 names, his expression turned ashen. 3 children of Kunlun. 3 of the children Kunlun had been killed. How was it possible? Who was able to kill 3 children of Kunlun at once? There were only 50 children of Kunlun in all of Kunlun. Each child of Kunlun had glorious status in the sect. They were astoundingly powerful, and any one of them could cause a storm on the outside world. But 3 children of Kunlun had died at the same time. This was the first time ever since Kunlun had been founded. Realizing the severity of the problem, the disciple on duty sprinted out madly. Not long after, the news that 3 children of Kunlun had been killed spread through all of Kunlun. Kunlun shook. Zuorimo fell down to the ground on his behind, his arms spread as he fell back. He ignored the flow of sweat and panted like a parched fish. All of his power had been used up. The exhaustion that came along caused his mind to turn blank. A long time later he finally focused. His accumulated emotions had been vented and his mind was clear. He would always remember the grudge of his sect, yet he was not as simple and direct with his emotions as Wei Sheng. Shi Xiang's personality was simple and direct. He had used a sword oath to understand his heart. For Zuorimo, who repressed these feelings. After a long time, it became an obstacle affecting his mental progress. When he used this method to vent all the matters that had accumulated his mind became clear, and his strength took another step forward. His body that was void of power, a clear mind, this strange yet beautiful feeling made him feel comfortable. He knew that after this battle, his strength would go up another level. There were constantly people coming out of the 5 halls. But anyone that were not on their side were immediately killed. Agui was like a ghost. Usually, just as the enemy came out, she would appear like a ghost behind the other's back, and with a snap she would break the other's neck. The Black Gold Seal soldier was not willing to show weakness, especially after he saw 10th grade's display. His mind at disequilibrium, he fought even harder. The Ghost Mist Child would occasionally participate to remind people he was there. However, the strongest member of the Great Ghost Mist tribe, the Hall Master of Mist Hall, now was in a situation where he had to remind people of his existence. It really was a pitiful matter. However, whenever he saw that silly bird out of the corner of his eyes that seemed to be napping, he immediately felt that it would be better to not be too attention-catching. Why had he ended up on a team with his natural enemy? He cried inside. Most of the experts were killed. Those that were coming out were average in strength. Facing Agui and the Black Gold Seal soldiers' powerful attacks, they usually were killed within 1 move. Both of these people were vicious people who killed like cutting grass. It made the good child Sunshine unable to look, and was still unable to look. When Wei Xing, Luo Li, Zhong Ru and the others came out of the 5 halls, their strength immediately grew. The Black Gold Seal soldier and Agui were even more reckless and vicious in their attacks. In any case, if they failed, there were still others that would follow up with another attack. However, when every person came out, they would first go to look at Zuomo's 50 li long gully created by his axe swing. They all gasped in shock. The guards looked reverently at Zuomo, who had collapsed onto the ground. At the side, the Ghost Mist Child occasionally spoke of Master's heroic bearing, spittle flying as he talked excitedly. As expected of Darren. He usually did not act, but once he did, the results were always astounding. It was a pity that these people staring reverently at Zhuo Mo did not know the inner conflict of their idol. The gazes of these people, so good, now you know your boss is great and bright? Oh no, my arm seems to be dislocated, should I tell them this? That is so embarrassing. Oh, let me first enjoy this and then say. Chapter 805, Mo Cloud C is coming. Kunlun. The death of 3 children of Kunlun was a great shock to Kunlun. Every child of Kunlun had been picked carefully, passing through numerous tests. All of them possessed astounding strength and talent. Each of them were Kunlun's greatest wealth. 3 children of Kunlun had died. Its Lotus Sutra temple's ancient ruins? Chao Xin's expression was serious. The death of 3 children of Kunlun was a great loss to Kunlun. In Chao Xin's view, this kind of loss was even greater than the loss of several jia. The selection of the children of Kunlun was extremely complex and strict. What was almost certain was that the children of Kunlun would become the strongest fighters for Kunlun. All of them had a bright future. If a jia was lost, it could be taken back. But if a child of Kunlun was killed, it was almost impossible to find a replacement. The children of Kunlun were picked from all Kunlun disciples. The loss of any of these geniuses was irreplaceable. If they wanted to replenish their numbers, they had to increase the range of selection. However, the loyalty of the genius youths selected from other sects under Kunlun was doubtful. Once Kunlun lost the unity that they relied on, then Kunlun was no longer Kunlun. Chao Xian knew this better than most people, and this was why he was worried. 3 children of Kunlun being killed at the same time, this meant the enemy was very strong. It's Mo Cloud C. Lin Qian spat out. His expression was normal, as though he was not affected at all. Most likely, Chao Xian agreed with Lin Qian's speculation. He said gravely, other than Mo Cloud C, no one has the strength. Tian Huan is not focused on this ruin, and the manpower they sent out is limited. How is everyone? Lin Qian suddenly asked. Chao Xian understood what Lin Qian meant. Everyone is angry, they want to get revenge for Nie Chen and the others. Nie Chen is a friendly person, and there are many disciples that like Chen Ling Meng. Lin Qian nodded. Send them all out to gain experience? Chao Xian paled. Isn't that? Lin Qian waved his hand and said calmly, even the best talent, without any tempering, cannot grow into a truly strong tree. They have good talent, but lack experience. Many of them were not outstanding in the past. They need time to adjust to the change in their status. Many of the children of Kunlun had not been outstanding in the Ling Power era because their talent in cultivating Ling Power had been ordinary. Yet after entering the era of Shen Power, their talents at cultivating Shen Power had been uncovered and their status had completely transformed. The changes in their status and identity had come too suddenly. Many people had not adjusted to the change. Lin Qian was very displeased with this. He felt that the children of Kunlun now did not have the spirit or demeanor of the previous core disciples of Kunlun. In that era, the core Kunlun disciples had pride that came from their bones. They could not tolerate other people being stronger than them. This spirit urged them on to demand more of themselves. Chao Xian understood, but he said worriedly, but this way, the fatalities will be high. Lin Qian said coolly, 50 children of Kunlun, I will be satisfied if 5 of them become top experts. I do not need flowers growing in the greenhouse, and Kunlun doesn't need them. I understand. Chao Xian did not speak further. Zhuo Mo and the others stood guard in front of the palace gates, killing whoever came in. There wasn't any faction that could fight against them. Soon, they were the only ones left in the entire ruins. Finally, no one is going to compete with us. Zhuo Mo's sigh was filled with satisfaction and extremely smug. The other people laughed. They had taken over the entire place. Which palace should we go to? Zhuo Mo asked the ghost Miss Child. The ghost Miss Child said and then thought, not the Winter Palace. There once had been a strong warrior from the Sun tribe that died when he entered the Winter Palace. The other palaces, all of them should be all right. As he spoke, The ghost Mischild's voice became smaller and smaller. Zhuomo's face turned dark and he glared angrily. You say you were familiar? The ghost Mischild said timidly, that, actually. Zhuomo rubbed his forehead and said, Alright, it was all the same. He thought. Among his group, the people who played with fire were the most common, so he said, let's go to the summer palace. The other people naturally did not have any objections. The bronze doors to the summer palace were carved with suns and blooming flowers. When Zhuomo's hand touched the bronze doors, the sun and the flowers suddenly lit up and the palace gates soundlessly opened. Bright sunlight came out of the palace gates. It was completely white, and everything narrowed their eyes. Moments later, when everyone's eyes adjusted to the strong light, they finally saw the scene inside. Emotion Temple. A figure slowly rose out of the blood pool. If Wei Sheng saw this figure, he would be astounded. The Wu Lu who had fallen at his sword was still alive. Wu Le's face was ashen and he wore a grimace. Yoshia laughed lightly. Who did you encounter that you got beaten so badly? Wei Sheng. Wu Le had an expression of respect. Everyone's expression shifted. I almost wasn't able to come back, Wu Lu said with lingering fear. Wei Sheng is really one of the strongest sword Xiu, so strong. To be able to escape with your life after fighting Wei Sheng, be satisfied, Yoshia said with a twist of his mouth. Everyone had expressions of agreement. Wu Le's complexion was pale but his eyes were bright and flashed with wondrous light. I have understood a lot in the fight against Wei Sheng. In half a year, I will definitely have a breakthrough. The others heard this and all showed expressions of joy. If Wu Le grew stronger, the Emotion Temple would also grow stronger. The conflicts in the Mo territories had continued. All the factions fought and had not stopped. The Emotion Temple's conflicts with the other factions had not stopped, but continuous battle would cause the Emotion Temple to grow stronger. The Mo gods of the Emotion Temple increased from 3 to 5. And the territory of the Emotion Temple had multiplied. The Emotion Temple had become one of the strongest factions in the 100 Savage realm. The strength of the Emotion Temple caused the Mo that lived in the area they ruled to have relatively good lives. Their belief grew more steady and the Mo gods were even stronger. However, the battle between the Mo Martial Alliance and Mo Cloud Sea had shocked them. The loss of the two top battle generals of the Mo Martial Alliance caused the Mo Martial Alliance to start declining. The skirmishes at the borders increased and Gongzishi alone could not deal with all of them. In the span of a few months, the territories of the Mo Martial Alliance had shrank by a fifth. The Mo Golds of the Emotion Temple watched with rapidly beating hearts. The Mo Martial Alliance and the Emotion Temple were factions of the same level. However, just due to one defeat, their situation had rapidly worsened. Everyone knew that the Mo Martial Alliance was probably going to end up a second-tier faction. Unless another new top battle general entered the Mo Martial Alliance, the Mo Martial Alliance's fate was sealed. With only one top battle general, it could not avoid the fate of its territories shrinking. The present skirmishes were just the beginning. The leaders of the Emotion Temple watched this and felt the pressure rise. The Emotion Temple had 3 top battle generals. The chief Mo god, Yoshia, and the 4th Mo god. The Rhinoceros Mo god and Wu were able to fight and lead troops, but there was still a great difference in skill from them to be truly top battle generals. Mo Cloud Sea. No one had thought that Mo Cloud Sea was so strong. Bihan alone had killed 2 top battle generals. This was terrifying. Also, the Emotion Temple had interacted with Zhuomo before and still had a memorable impression of him. They knew that with Zhuomo's personality, he would never do an unprofitable thing. Bihan's Sin Battalion would definitely have a way of being replenished. Otherwise, Zhuomo definitely would not agree for Bihan to make such a sacrifice. The loss of 2 top battle generals caused the defense lines of the Mo Martial Alliance to be in constant retreat. While Bihan no longer fought, the Tongzi Battalion, a Zhagu Battalion, and the Grey Camp were like 3 sharp daggers that cut up the defense lines of the Mo Martial Alliance. Lightning fast, Mo Cloud Sea took down 13 Jie of various sizes. The MO Martial Alliance seemed to be flee when they heard the name MO Cloud Sea. They could not muster up any resistance. Helpless, the MO Martial Alliance could only retreat and give up large amounts of territory. MO Cloud Sea seemed even more emboldened. However, it was not that the other factions were not prowling about. In their view, Bihan had already returned to MO Cloud Sea. The 3 battalions that were roaming about now were not Sin Battalion. They did not think highly of those battalions, and they also had the advantage of being on home territory. An alliance of more than 40 small factions formed a great army intending to take down this piece of meat. However, Tang Fei and the other battalions let them have a taste of true power. On the battlefield, the Tangzi Battalion fought 21 consecutive battles without sleep or rest. They won all 21. Gray Camp sneaked a long way and suddenly appeared behind the enemy. They took over 30 main towns and burned almost 70% of the supply bases. Ajagu Battalion's movements forced the alliance to split up their forces. Then he met up with Tang Fei and defeated the main forces of the alliance. Corpses piled in mountains, blood flowing in rivers. The alliance immediately crumpled. Yet, unexpectedly, the 3 battalions did not rest at all. Like wolves, they continued to pursue the fleeing soldiers. The collapsing alliance lost all fighting spirit. They only knew to flee, furiously flee. Following the defeated forces, the 3 battalions, without almost any effort, took down one jie after another. 44 jie. When the numbers were finally calculated, the MO territories were shocked again. The strong fighting ability of MO Cloud Sea caused the entire world to look at them. They were not Bihan. Except for Ajagu, everyone else had been unknown before this. Yet in this string of battles, they had displayed strong offensive power and revealed the high level of their battle general training. They thought about the previous Mafan battalion who had become famous due to one battle. None of these 4 battalions were weak. These battalions were different in their styles, but they had many traits in common: strong military regulation and a hardy spirit. The entire MO territories were shouting in shock MO Cloud Sea was coming. You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.